you should be sitting here in the front row. So, and if you are not the speaker, you should not be sitting in the front row. Oh, you guys are okay. So, please.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0. All engine running.
50 years ago, for political reasons, humanity stepped out of its cradle into deep space. The moon, right there in Earth's back garden, had been inspiring and calling humanity for ages. Finally, on the 20th of July 1969, humanity set foot on its surface, fulfilling one of our greatest dreams.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The Earth, as seen from the moon, has been at the root of the ecological movement and will continue to push humanity to its protection. The importance of the moon landing has been compared to the arrival of the sea creatures on land. Humanity went few times to the moon and has not been back since 1972, restricting human presence to low Earth orbit. The moon and the planets have been left to robotic explorers. This year, we not only remember the achievements of 50 years ago, but are planning for the next 50 years on the moon, a plan called the Moon Village. The moon is again sparking global interest, but this time for economical reasons. An orderly and fair use of resources will produce wealth and make the moon Earth's 8th continent, offering major benefits to humanity and contributing to world peace. The US, China, India, Europe, Israel and Russia are launching missions to the moon and cislunar space, preparing to tap into the resources on offer. This year, Chang'e 4 landed on the far side of the moon. New discoveries are being made every day. Israel's Bereshit lander and India's Chandrayaan-2 mission, more players are getting involved in the moon. Not just governments, but private industry are also realizing the potential of lunar exploration and exploitation. The public are eagerly awaiting. The question is how to connect all these apparently independent initiatives and engage the public worldwide. The answer is the Moon Village, a community of stakeholders interested in using the moon in a sustainable, open and peaceful manner for the benefit of all humanity. The Moon Village requires an organization to facilitate its implementation. This is the Moon Village Association, an NGO registered in Vienna in 2017. How can the Moon Village Association foster the implementation of the Moon Village? First, by defining its founding principles, and second, by identifying the moon missions and activities fulfilling these principles. The principles are general, but they embody the spirit and cooperation and inclusiveness of the Moon Village. See them at www.moonvillageassociation.org. The process of constructing the Moon Village started this year, with the first moon missions and activities identified by the Moon Village Association being acknowledged worldwide. The approach of implementing the Moon Village concept into real missions and activities beyond any national program is paving the way for open, peaceful coordination and cooperation between the stakeholders that will adopt them by building mutual confidence and trust without any formal agreement. This will boost global cooperation like never seen before, creating a sustainable moon market that will create new wealth for its citizens. In a complex and interconnected world, the Moon Village will inspire and bring benefits to the young generation, democratizing access to the moon. The Moon Village will contribute to achieving the goal for sustainable development on Earth, a requirement included in the UN Agenda 2030, and pave the way for the expansion of humanity beyond Earth. The Moon Village Association will play a unique role thanks to your support.
Thank you very much for your attention. And thank you very much for coming to this 2019 Moon Village Workshop and Symposium. This is the third event organized by the Moon Village Association in partnership with the local organizing committee here in Japan. The prior events were in Los Angeles last year, and before that at the International Space University in Strasbourg. It is now my pleasure and honor to introduce the president, and I should say, by the way, I am John Mankins. I am the vice president of the Moon Village Association, just so. So it is my pleasure this morning to introduce, I am trying, but it's a long way down. I'm not very tall, and it's a long way down. That's what I clicked on. On the first one. This one. Okay. Yeah. Okay, now, it is my pleasure to introduce the president of the Moon Village Association, Monsieur Giuseppe Reibaldi. Please.
Oh, so that's the first. I think I use it like, can you hear me? Is better? Okay, so first of all, good morning to everyone here. So I think the room is nearly full, so I think hopefully some more people will join. So I would like to start, first of all, welcoming here. I think John has already made the welcome, so I will make it even the second welcome official from the side of the president. I'd like to start with thanks. Thanks to the local organizing committee from Japan. They have done an outstanding job, and the result you can see here in front of us. We have about 60% over subscription in comparison to what we expected. So this is a huge success, and I think we owe this mainly to our local organizing committee and all the people working with them. So I will talk about the chair of the local organizing committee, Inatani Sensei, which is here, so in the first row, and of course all the people which have been working with them, as well as all the university staff which are here busy. Of course, the co-hosting organization, which they will be talking shortly later, the supporting organization like JAXA, thank you for that, as well as last but not least, all the sponsors. We have an impressive number of sponsors today, which I think gives a very good impression of the interest that the moon and the potential for the moon application is in Japan and all over the world. So again, domo arigato gozaimashita. So I think this is an important duty, the one to thank the host. Now, entering a little bit in the subject matter, as the Vice President indicated, today is the third workshop, and we are very proud to be in Asia. The organization, as you hopefully you will know, is a global organization by definition. So has got, as you will see later, people all over the world, and our annual workshop is changing continent every year. As John indicated, we started in Europe, but it's not an European organization. Let's be this very clear. We are registered in Vienna, but we do not want to be considered a European organization. We are a global organization, which has, as you will see, a network all over the world. So we started in Europe, in Strasbourg, for a number of logistic reasons. Then we went on to United States, and we had in Los Angeles. And then this year we had the pleasure to be hosted here in Asia, in Japan. This is done by a process of selection, and who will be the next host, you will learn only tomorrow afternoon, when we will communicate who has won the hosting of the 2020 event, which will indeed again be in Europe. So having said that, and in order to save time in the organizing committee to organize the event today, if somebody can put the chart about Sinterklaas, then of course it's not there. So in any case, while we're getting the chart, I want to tell you that today is the 5th of December. And the local organizing committee was so good that they realized that today in Holland, which is the country where I come from, is a special day. Is a day of Sinterklaas. So Sinterklaas is the forerunner of Father Christmas, of Santa Claus, because the United States took over from the sailor, this habit, and then became Santa Claus. So what happened that on the 5th of December, Sinterklaas brings gift to everyone, and he brings this gift using the moon, because he needs to see how the gift goes through the chimney, okay? And so I feel that today is a special event, so hopefully it's going to bring us luck, because it's connecting the moon, and it's connecting, hopefully, the gift that we are going to get from the moon, and it's up to us in a cooperative spirit to try to get, now eventually we are getting the picture of what you might see here. So you might see, you can put the lights on a bit lower. Right, so you can see, this is Sinterklaas here, and you can see the full moon. This is a typical, let's say, pictures of how let's say, the event of today is. So all the elements, and you can see they brings in the gift through the chimney. So I believe I would like to end my opening by saying that this is a very good luck for us. Again, thank you again, the organizing committee, to have managed to organize it in this special day. It's a special day, so let's hope that the moon will bring us the gift as Sinterklaas is bringing to everybody here on Earth. And with that, thank you very much, Chairman. I finished my talk. Thank you. I wish you good work.
So next, we would like to welcome Inatani Sensei, formerly of ISAS, and currently of the Moon Village Association. Please.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. And yeah, as John and Giuseppe introduced already, I am taking care of the local organizing committee. We started the preparation work since the last December, and then finally, it's a pleasure to come down here to have a gathering so many people. And then this one is the introduction of these Professor Chiaki Mukai and Takao Doi and Setsuko Aoi, who are the co-host for the symposium today. So after following the greeting sessions, we will introduce these three guys, three professors. Will introduce what's going on. And to my understanding, this Moon Village Association and activities for Moon Village is unlike other existing program discussions, but this gathering is for some sort of enhancing our imagination type of business. To my understanding, looking at the far beyond the future, that's not for 10 years, 20 years, but for the 50 years and 100 years, more than that, beyond that. So this kind of I would like to ask you to have an enhancing your imagination and our imagination together, then to do a good discussion each other. That is my expectation. Thank you very much. In addition to that, I would like to tell this, and Giuseppe already told, we expected the number of participants on this is unexpectedly very large. I don't know why. But more than double. So any inconvenience for this small room for a large number of people, any inconvenience, I will say I'm very sorry for that. But it's a happy type of thing. for us. It's our pleasure to have many, many participants on that. On that contest, you are almost perfectly welcome today. Yes? So let's enjoy, please enjoy our workshop and symposium. But one thing I have to ask is, we have later in this afternoon, we have a breakout session. And once again, we have so many participants unexpectedly. We have to split you into 5. But the capacity limitation we do have, we're asking you to have show your wish. And then we do allocate you to each session. And this will be announced maybe early this afternoon. But in the time deadline for doing this, and drop the sheet of paper on the box maybe behind the door before 11 o'clock. So please be cooperative to us, and otherwise the sprinter session will be in the mess and confusion. We'd like to avoid this type of confusion. So thank you very much in advance for your cooperation on that. So let's get started. Please enjoy our workshop and symposium. That's all my presentation.
Take the microphone. One other logistical announcement. We are live streaming this morning and all of the plenary sessions. So the equipment which is set up over here on the side is going out worldwide. So next, it is my honor to present Yamakawa Sensei, the president of JAXA, to make some opening remarks to this workshop and symposium. Thank you, sir. Welcome. Microphone.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. Well, it is a great honor for me to take this opportunity to make remarks as a representative of the supporting organizations for the 3rd International Moon Village Workshop and Symposium. Firstly, I would like to express a heartfelt welcome to the President of the Moon Village Association, Dr. Giuseppe Reibaldi. Correct? Thank you very much. And many of you who are attending, we are visiting all the way from abroad. In addition, this workshop and symposium have diverse participants from government, academia, and industry. On behalf of the Japanese Space Agency, I'm overjoyed and heartened by the increasing momentum and inspiration toward sustainable lunar exploration. Well, Japanese space endeavor started more than 60 years ago with the development of pencil-sized solid propellant rockets, which resulted in the first satellite, Osumi, in 1970, about 50 years ago. And in the field of lunar exploration, the first Japanese lunar probe, Hiten, was launched in 1990, about 30 years ago. And Japan became the 3rd country to successfully send a satellite to a lunar orbit. And the Hiten spacecraft utilized a technology called weak stability boundary method, which positively utilized the complicated orbital dynamics under the Sun, Earth, and Moon gravity. After orbiting the Moon, the Hiten spacecraft finally reached the lunar surface by a controlled hard landing, I would call it, before the fuel was depleted. By the way, the minimum energy transfer from the Earth to the Moon utilizing this kind of technology was the theme of my PhD dissertation a long time ago. Then in 2007, Selene spacecraft, also known as the Kaguya spacecraft, was sent into a lunar orbit where it perfectly performed scientific observation of the entire Moon. And right now, JAXA is currently planning the launch of SLIM mission. SLIM means Smart Lander for investigating the moon with high precision landing technology onto the surface of the moon. Furthermore, JAXA is also planning the lunar polar exploration mission with a lander and a rover with international efforts. In the field of human space flight, participation in the International Space Station ISS has helped us to acquire human spaceflight technologies as well as logistics resupply technologies. And Japanese astronauts, including Dr. Chiaki Mukai, Dr. Takao Doi, and Dr. Koichi Wakata, who are with us today, this morning, have greatly contributed to the construction and operations in orbit, along with many other astronauts from all over the world, some of whom are also with us today. One milestone for international space exploration was marked last year when the Japanese government hosted the second International Space Exploration Forum, ISEF2, in Tokyo. And the representatives of more than 40 countries, international organizations, and the heads of a space agency discussed the future of international space exploration and announced a joint statement and released the Tokyo Principles for International Space Exploration. With regard to relations between space agencies, the International Exploration Coordination Group, ISECG, which JAXA is currently chairing, has the participation of 20 space agencies and is currently advancing discussions on the architecture of lunar exploration. And just recently, a meeting of strategic headquarters for national space policy, led by Prime Minister Abe, was held this October. And the policy on Japan's participation in the international space exploration was decided, including the US-led Gateway program and lunar surface exploration. I am aware that at Moon Village Association, discussion is progressing across borders and between members with diverse backgrounds, from the theoretical and engineering sides to the legal, social, and cultural sides, based on the idea of creating a sustainable human activity on the lunar surface. JAXA also considers sustainability is the key in the future lunar exploration, different from the past approaches, and we believe that international cooperation and participation by private sectors are also indispensable. I would like to conclude my talk by hoping that open-minded discussions will make this workshop a fruitful one. Thank you very much.
So, the computer? So, for those of you who may be watching the schedule and you notice we are behind a little bit, please don't worry. We have a contingency plan to sacrifice the coffee break. So, we have in our design, all good programs have a good design. We have margin. So, it's the coffee. So next, it is my great pleasure to introduce Nakasuka Sensei of Tokyo University and the member of the Space Policy Group at the Cabinet Office. So please, Nakasuka Sensei, a friend of many years. Good to see you.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be here. So I was invited by the Inatani sensei. He's my boss, and I cannot. I should follow his order. Anyway, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you all and the Moon Village Association members to organize this kind of the very wonderful, workshop and the symposium. Wonderful symposium or workshop and symposium. Okay, wonderful. And I'm very happy to see so many people coming, and so this room is almost crowded. And as I know, John said that I'm one of the members of the Space Policy Committee. First, I'd like to show what we decided in the Space Policy Committee of the Cabinet Office. So this is already open to the public. Yes. And we decided this in the October. Japan will participate in the international project towards the moon and the gateway with the following reasons: contribution to diplomacy and security, and it will enhance the international competitiveness and presence of Japan, and the enlargement of industry participation to space, which is very much related to Moon Village Association activities, and the construction of a gateway towards the next goals. So this is the reason why I decided to participate in this. And the collaborative works which Japan will provide looks like this: provision of the components to the first step gateway, and transportation to gateway by HTVX and H3, and the sharing lunar data for selection of landing site, that is very important, and the development of surface transportation methods. So, but we have also been discussing that Japan is not so much money, doesn't have so much money for the space development. So we should do this within very limited financial resources for space development activities in Japan. And also through this project, we should identify what Japan gets from this project. So we should discuss more in order to, how we participate in this program in more detail. So that discussion will continue. Okay, and in addition to this kind of the official position, I'm the researchers and professors at the university, and I have a several interest, technological interest in these moon lunar activities. First one is, this transportation logistics. We studied this around the 1990s. It is called the OTV network, Orbital Transport Vehicle Network. That is to construct a certain kind of the transportation logistics or network in the space which use a fuel station and OTV. I think that this kind of the logistics research is very important. And for example, the lunar orbit of gateway should be studied more, considering the next targets of each participant. Okay, what will be the next target, and how we can use a moon surface. So considering that, we should decide the lunar orbit of the gateway. And this should be considered, this should be discussed within the framework of total transportation infrastructure. And fuel supply or fuel storage capability should be developed to enlarge the transportation capability. Okay, so if we bring all the fuel from the Earth, we cannot go far away. So if we go far away, we should make fuel at each site and to go farther. So this kind of the fuel storage and supply capability would be very important. And water on the Earth would be a very good source of doing this. And the amount of water on the moon to be used for fuel should be estimated in early stage. So maybe all the community will go to the moon should do this. How we can get such information is very important issue. So this is my a technological interest. And the infrastructure around the moon looks like this. How to construct what kind of the infrastructure around the moon? Communication infrastructure, navigation infrastructure, and as I said, the fuel generation and storage infrastructure. Or if the human goes there, maybe the emergency rescue activity would be required, and the in-orbit or lunar surface service would be also required. And the roles of government and private sectors is another very important issues. Technological development and or building infrastructure, who will do that? And how we can make a task sharing between the government and private sectors. And the government investment and or private sector investment. And the government purchase service, their service, or this kind of something like a service contract would be another options. And the, how to proceed with international collaborations, including the legal aspect, that is also very important discussions. So one of my major recent activities development of the micro nano pico satellite. Our university already launched 11 satellites, and 2 weeks ago we launched the two small satellites from ISS, and we are now developing the Aquarius, which is a 6U CubeSat, which will go to the other side of the moon, Earth Moon Lagrange point 2 on the NASA's SLS new rocket. And so in this way, the micro nano pico-sat is now making a very big game change in the field of the space development. So please consider the utilization of this kind of the small satellite. So because maybe the micro nano pico satellite contribute to the also to the lunar activity in this field. For example, the search for the water or other resources by many satellites, and the miniaturization of the effective sensor would be a very important technological issues, and the communication and navigation infrastructure in the initial phase. So after the initial phase, maybe the bigger satellite will be used, but the initial phase is very difficult to use that. So the this kind of the small satellite would be very effective. And the first one, final one is the space science and exploration on gateway or from gateway. Deployment of the small satellite from the gateway to make this kind of activities. So this is my message, and I hope you will have a very good and hot discussion. Thank you very much.
So I hope we will have a very fruitful discussion, not necessarily a hot discussion, which is a little different. Next, we had scheduled Dr. Jan Woerner from the European Space Agency. Unfortunately, there had been some logistical issues, and even though he was not planning to be able to be here, but he was planning to prepare a video. I think probably the video is there someplace in Europe, but it is not here in Tokyo. So unfortunately, he cannot be with us this morning. So next. Okay. So it is my pleasure to, So next it is my pleasure to introduce one of our three co-hosts. Mukai Sensei, a very long-time friend, is a vice president here at the Tokyo University of Science and chief leader for the Space Colony Center of Research, and also was one of the first class of Japanese astronauts. So it's a pleasure. Please, Mukai Sensei.
Thank you very much. So good morning, everybody, and also welcome to Japan and welcome Moon Village Association. It's a great pleasure to utilize our university, Tokyo University of Science, be the symposium and workshop place. And actually, we have so many people, and we are very much excited to explore Moon or Mars beyond the vast space. At the same time, we have to explore the very small, cozy space in this conference room because of so many participants. So if there is the inconvenience for you, our university would like to support as much as possible to make this symposium very fruitful. So I'm Chiaki Mukai. I'm Chiaki Mukai, and I work as a vice president of this university, Tokyo University of Science, and also the director of the Tokyo University of Science, our university's research center for space colony, targeting on the moon base living. So, using this opportunity, I would like to talk about a little bit of our university's activities in terms of heading to the moon. I flew 2 times in space, and actually at that time, I was so excited because that was 1985. I wanted to be to fly into space. In the 1990s, I flew 2 times, and then our excitement was, wow, we are going to leave Earth to go to the low Earth orbit. Now, 50 years of anniversary of Apollo 11 landing on the moon this year, we are even in the very exciting position that we are going to leave low Earth orbit to moon or Mars. So it is very timely to have a Moon Village Association meeting here in our university. So exploration to the moon and Mars has always been the dream for humankind. And currently, there are many, many ongoing activities worldwide. In recent years, new players from the public and private sectors are emerging to actively participate in space explorers. So we have more players coming in, which is very good. And then since living and working in space needs not only transportation system to the remote area, but also technology for habitation, living and working the place. There are many possibilities for both spacefaring nations and even non-spacefaring nations to take a part of the space exploration venture if you explore to investigate some habitation issue. And then together with, we will be able to head on the moon. And then, I'm so sorry, it doesn't change. So the space exploration to the moon and Mars requires a comprehensive range of even more challenging technologies compared to the low Earth orbit. Active participation from various backgrounds, including spacefaring and space emerging countries, and the industries are important. So, with the hope future living on the moon, in 1917, 3 years ago, almost 2.5 years ago, Tokyo University of Science, TUS, which I serve as vice president, has established a Space Colony Research Center. And then the developing technology, this one is targeting the developing technology for moon-based habitation and kind of a dual approach, its application to the Earth society to help people living on the Earth. So the research are all based on ground and the study in these areas not only contribute to the realization of space exploration, but help for people living on the Earth. So we use the state-of-the-art technologies on the ground to be integrated into core technologies that being used in space, and then expected to technological return to the Earth. And then we will bring the PDCA cycle continuously, sustainably cycling. Just a little bit of our introduction of our university. We have several the department like physics and pharmacological and engineering, etc. But interestingly enough, our university doesn't have space department exist. No space department exists. But eager from our university and the people working on this university and also the students are very much dreaming to work on the space program. So our university is 20,000 students and very much dedicating to the science and technology with the motto of building a better future with the science. Thus, even though no space department, special department exists, we have a very strong science element, like a photocatalysis. The discoverer of the professor who discovered the photocatalysis mechanisms is also working for this university, and we have an international photocatalysis center, so that we have a lot of the application have already released to the ground. And this photocatalysis is the one that we are going to utilize for the clean air and water, etc. And also the strong part of our university is battery, energy creation, and energy storage. Because the world first dry battery was invented by the alumni of this university, the precursor of this university, Dr. Yai. So we have a legacy of the strong area. So using this opportunity, and also we have this structure, like interdisciplinary approach, the structure has existed. So functional materials, fundamentals, and bio and pharmacy, and information and societal and structural materials. And we put at top of this interdisciplinary the structure saying space is super duper interdisciplinary. So we need all of the people work together to achieve the goal. So the Research Center for Space Colony is very interdisciplinary, the team. We have the pamphlet in front of the conference room. So everybody, if you wish to learn about more, please take a look at it. So what we have done so far is we just focus on the energy and water and air and food, because these are very essential. And also the third team and the fourth team is related to the space systems and also the quality of life. So not only just to survive, we need to seek for the quality of the life who are living and working in space. So just briefly, I will explain about what those four teams are doing. So the energy team is very much interested in solar cell power generation and thermal to electrical power generation as a kind of backup system, because the solar power will be the main power system on the moon, I believe. And then the flywheel battery for powered storage, these are the area that we are investigating. And then talking about the water and the air recycling the technology team, the resources are very limited, both in space and Earth. Thus, recycle, reuse, and reduce waste is essential. So the photocatalysis that I explained, technology has been used for two goals. The goal one is the one that recently that International Space Station is, of course, doing, to utilize urine for the drinking water. So improving the water and air quality, recycled technology, and more efficient way and a more compact way. This is the goal one. And goal two is the one to convert waste to valuable substances. So recently stool or the garbages are not being used in space. So we would like to utilize those the waste to develop some necessary things to make. And the food team, agriculture team, this space agriculture team, the researching hydroponics to grow food in space with using two technologies. The first one is the disease and insect-free cultivation system, which is an individual bag cultivation system, and so that one bag is contaminated, the rest of the bag is saved. So this is the way. And also to bring the closed system to the open system to develop some hydroponic cultivation. The second technology that we are currently applying is the in-liquid plasma. So in-liquid plasma, when you do some plasma discharge in the water, the nitrogen get into the water, so that we don't need to bring nitrogen-rich fertilizer from the Earth to the moon, so that we will be able to utilize the existing materials or in situ materials as much as possible for supporting the moon habitation. So that's the agriculture, the food system. And then the last team is the space, the QOL, quality of life and system design. And this team actually focusing on various things like real-time monitoring, the biosensing or for stress monitoring, or maybe fire behavior, the prediction under microgravity, and also the 16G, the moon gravity, etc. And also the system-wise, even our university doesn't have the space faculty. We have a very strong technology, like Professor Kimura, who are the vice director of our university, of Space Colony Research Center, has a very good visual camera system. So as you know that the Hayabusa-2 just left the Tengu asteroid, had 6 camera systems, and 2 on the Minerva, who are lander of the asteroid, and also the 4 in the main spacecraft. Those small cameras are developed by this university. And that kind of this is a landing station. And this is the video, the video that the worldwide people actually excited to see and saw this, was also taken our university's picture with work with JAXA. And also, we have the Kimura's laboratory does a lot of space robotics and COTS technologies and small satellite development to be in future utilized to help or support astro-scale debris sweepers company, and then the optical system will be also being developed in our university. So we have a lot of elements to work together to help moon exploration. And also recently we have established Space Colony Research and Development Consortium, because our design of the research is not only academia, but also the work together with agency and also industry and a lot of academia. So we need a lot of people to exchange idea, to get some good idea to help or explore moon in case for the JAXA or other agencies are going to do. So this is our university doing. So this is our kind of ground design. Our university is a private university, and it is a lot of the hope and a lot of excitement to explore space. But of course, the money is limited. So to get the sustainable program, actually we invite many people, non-space related industry, to come together to work for support the living issue. So this is kind of analogy. Like for example, resource like water, energy, food, ISS is almost a camping situation. 100% we have to bring. Of course, energy they develop, but quite a lot of things we have to bring from the Earth to support the International Space Station. Moon, we have to utilize in situ resource, maybe 50% independent or independent from the on the Earth. Mars, totally independent, self-sufficient. So exploration or habitation research is analogous to the countries or with less natural resources like Japan, becoming more independent from the outside foreign resources. So with the science and technology, we will be able to work, and then the moon, targeting on the moon living will give us a very good high goal to achieve for our the research. So this is a ground design. So as I mentioned, the space and the ground dual the approachment. So our case put the higher level of goal, which means everybody in future work on the moon surface or live on the moon surface, and then bring the Earth technology higher and higher with the help of industry or work with the agency, and then bringing that benefit even before reaching to the moon on the ground to help SDGs, etc., so that the company will be able to invest continuously, or academia also continuously work together. And then at the same time, we would like to develop some global platform for information about who does what in terms of what kind of interest, so that when the time we are heading to the moon, we can get a very strong team based on this kind of ground-based platform. So the last 2 minutes, this is the JAXA developed this video, but I would like to show this video because this shows how Japan as a whole, as a one team, interested in exploring moon. And then this is developed by JAXA, and so the Yamakawa sensei is at the beginning, and the representative from industry, and the representative from the academia, and our university is included, including the inflatable module. So please take a look at this.
Can we go to the moon?
The children's dream will come true. With the slim moon lander, JAXA is acquiring high-accuracy pinpoint landing technology. In the field of lunar exploration, significant advances will be achieved in cooperation with space agencies around the world. Regarding the gateway, JAXA will be able to contribute to the plan with our cargo transfer technology and human habitation technology. We are now working together with private companies through cooperative research to promote lunar exploration.
Kajima Corporation has working on unmanned technology for automatic construction site for the past 10 years. It is challenging to use our technology to be applied on the moon. Ensuring productivity and safety, we'd like to develop the bases on the moon and Mars with our experience at construction site on the Earth.
This is our university, Tokyo University of Science, in cooperation with JAXA and Shimizu Corporation, is developing an inflatable module to promote the technology for moon-based habitation. With its hollow tubular structure, the module is light in weight and can be folded into a compact package for delivery. The technologies for energy supply, recycle of water and air, and food production for self-support will be tested inside the module. Applications derived from the space habitation technology will contribute to solving social problems and developing a sustainable society on Earth.
All together with Team Japan and the world.
We are going to the moon.
We are going to the moon.
We are going to the moon.
We are going to the moon. So this is our excitement. So it is. Thank you. So again, it is very timely to have Moon Village Association, the third workshop, and also the symposium being held in this university in Japan. So thank you for everybody coming. And then I hope that we will have a lot of discussions and have a lot of friends that we can make so that in future we will be able to work together. Thank you very much.
So the next speaker is Professor Doi from Kyoto University, who is also the first class of Japan's astronauts. So please welcome Professor Doi. Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. I'm very happy to be here and welcome all of you for coming to the Third International Moon Village Workshop and Symposium. Well, today I'd like to talk about human space activities taking place in Kyoto, covering those 4 topics. First, I'd like to touch upon the history of human space activities in Japan. Then I'd like to talk about the work we are doing in Kyoto, at Kyoto University. And the third topic is human spaceology. I suppose many people have not heard this word because we created it. It means the study of human space activities. Then the fourth topic is the educational program we have developed at Kyoto University. The Japanese human space program started in 1985 when Mamoru Mori, Chiaki, and I was selected as the first generation of Japanese astronauts. And from 1985 to 2008, it is the first phase of the Japanese human space program. During this period, Japanese astronauts flew in average once every 2 years, and Japan was trying to get the new technologies related to human space activities. For example, Mamoru Mori flew in 1992, and we tried to get the technologies for material science experiments in space. Chiaki flew in 1994. We tried to learn about the technologies for life science experiments. Koichi, Wakata flew in 1996 for robotics, and I flew in 1997 for EVA, or spacewalks. And so this learning continued, and as a result, Japan was able to design and manufacture the Japanese space station modules, Kibo. Then what happened in 2008? This is a year we finally took the Japanese space station modules to space and attached them to the International Space Station. So the second phase of the Japanese human space program started in 2008, and this slide shows all the Japanese space station missions. During this period, Japanese astronauts flew almost every year, and we completed the assembling the Japanese space station in the first 3 missions and 3 astronauts. Me and Akihoshide and Koichi Wakata. Also, starting in 2015, we have the youngest generation of astronauts, Japanese astronauts, started flying with Yui-san in 2015 and Oni-san in 2016 and Kanai-san in 2017. This Japanese space station program will continue until 2024. Recently, Japanese government announced that Japan is going to join the international project of human moon project. Well, I moved to Kyoto and started working with Kyoto University in 2016. As you may know, Kyoto was an ancient capital of Japan for 1,000 years. It is the best place to learn about the past and the best place to dream for the future. And when I started teaching human space activities to the students at Kyoto University, I quickly realized that we do not have the academic discipline which covers the entire aspects of human space activity. So I decided to create it. So what is human spaceology? It is a study of human space activities. And in the human spaceology, we would like to investigate how we can build a permanent and sustainable society in space. There are four very important elements here. They are humans, time, and space. And combining two of those, that we could generate the kind of evolution processes. For example, combining space and time, which links to the evolution of space. And combining humans and time, it generates the evolution of life and the evolution of civilization. And combining humans and space, it links to the evolution of technology. So in a sense, human spaceology regards human space activities as one of the evolution processes of humankind. Under this human spaceology, first we decided to create the educational program at Kyoto University. So the question is, what is human space activity? And here are three characteristics. It uses the most advanced science and technology. It includes social activities, and it has a high public interest. Once we have more and more young people participating in human space activities, it's going to expand space utilization, and it's going to diverse space industries. In the end, for the social effects, it's going to expand human society into space. And only human activities can do this job. Oh, it looks like it got stuck. Could you check it? Okay, and because we are dealing with, okay, and go, okay, wait a minute, just a moment. Because we are dealing with the education program, we need to think about what kind of students we like to create. And then the question is, what are the desired qualities of people working in space? And I picked up those three qualities: ability to challenge, team player, and highly motivated. We need to have ability of challenge because we do something new at each space mission. Also, we need team players because no one can go to space alone. We need to trust our crew members. Also, we need a person highly motivated because it takes many years just to prepare one space mission. In Japanese case, so we built the space station module Kibo, and it took us 23 years to put it into orbit. So in order for students to gain those qualities, we decided to develop two educational programs. The first one is basic educational program, or basic program. It consists of a series of lectures, and the objective of the basic program is to introduce students to the wide range of academic disciplines related to human space activities. The second program is the advanced educational program, or advanced program. which consists of a series of lectures, research, and field work. And by doing the field work, the students can face the challenges as well as the changes of the program and learn how to build teamwork. And fieldwork consists of hands-on practice, and it's going to lead to ability to challenge and highly the human space activities are the integrated science, so we created image map. In this map, we introduced 13 academic disciplines related to human space activities. We put humans in the center of this map, surrounded by the society which is colored green, and the space is located far outside in yellow. There are many activities taking place in our society, and also there are activities in space corresponding to those activities on the Earth. By connecting those activities, we could define academic disciplines. For example, we picked up transportation in our society, and corresponding thing in space is rockets. And by connecting those two things, we can define the spacecraft engineering as academic discipline. By doing that, we introduced 13 disciplines. And red-colored disciplines belong to natural science, and blue-colored disciplines belong to social science. Well, we started carrying out the basic and advanced educational programs. The first we did is to provide lectures. The purpose of the basic educational program or basic program lecture is to introduce that 13 academic disciplines, a wide range of academic disciplines related to human space activities to the students. The purpose of the advanced program lecture is provide more practical knowledge to the students, so that students can use the knowledge to attack the exercise associated with the lecture. The theme of the exercise is to design a society of 150 people living in space. And students worked on this exercise, and they produced those posters. The left side is the society on the moon, and the right side is a society on Enceladus. Enceladus is a moon of the Saturn, orbiting the Saturn. And those posters will be presented at the Kyoto session. Also, we carried out various field work. And the first field work I'd like to talk about is a space camp held at the Kazan Observatory, which is located just outside of Kyoto. This space camp simulates a short duration space mission. Students stayed at tents and worked on 3 topics for 6 days. The first topic is the astronomical observation. Students observed exoplanets and learned about habitability. The second topic is the microgravity experiment. Students observed the plant growth by utilizing clinostats. And the third topic is teamwork building. They worked very hard and to learn how to build teamwork. We have conducted 3 space camps in 2017, 18, and 19, and we are going to have the 4th one next year. The second fieldwork is a parabolic flight in which students can have a short duration, about 20 seconds of microgravity on board an airplane. We call this fieldwork Kyoto Parabolic Challenge, KPC, and we have conducted 4 KPC flights so far. Also, we worked with the Primate Research Institute of Kyoto University to investigate the effect of outer space or different gravity on our mind or human mind. And students analyzed their data and produced the result as a posters. And those posters will be also presented in Kyoto as well. The third space camp, third field work is the space camp at Biosphere 2. Many people might have heard about Biosphere 2. Biosphere 2 was constructed in Tucson, Arizona in the 1990s to simulate the closed ecological system of the Earth. It is a huge biological facility with the tropical rainforest, ocean, and desert sections. It is now owned and operated by the University of Arizona. So we have been collaborating with the University of Arizona and carried out this space camp. And we did 2 times this and the United States participated in the space camp working in the closed ecosystem, simulating living on Mars. And the objective of this space camp is design Biosphere 3 on Mars. And we are planning to conduct the third space camp at Biosphere 2 next year. But in conclusion, the Kyoto University has developed the educational program, human space activities, which targets the undergraduate students, and it consists of basic and advanced educational program. The basic educational program provides a series of lectures of 14 with 13 academic disciplines, and they are related to human space activities. The advanced educational program consists of also a series of lectures, but which are more practical, and exercise course and field work. Field work includes 2 different kinds of space camps and parabolic flight. Also, this year we have started developing a more research-oriented educational program on human space activities. Finally, I'd like to conclude my lecture by telling you my favorite phrase, reach for the stars. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So for our final co-host address is from Aoki Sensei. You disappeared. So she is a professor at Keio University and a recognized expert on space law. Please, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. On behalf of the Keio University,
who is one of the hosts, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude for this big audience. Well, we already know this is a very big success. ここに載せてあります。Yeah, yes. ムーンビレッジアソシエーションというタイトルなんですが、MVA で今日の日付。はい。デスクトップに入れてあります。So I done well glasses. Well, it's been already. Hi. Thank you very much. So already cooperation, and Giuseppe and I will co-chair coordination and cooperation. So we are waiting for the big audience again too. So, well, Moon village concept and well, at first, Moon village concept is described as the ensemble of all efforts from private, governmental, and others. It doesn't work. Aiming to explore and use the moon in a sustainable manner. Thank you. So this means to make a society, and to make a society, we need a law. And the unique trait about our space, including the moon and other celestial bodies, is the area beyond the national jurisdiction, sovereignty, and international law has been developed on the legislation of an object. I'm so sorry. An object launched into outer space, called space object. This is a slide for 5 United Nations space treaties, and especially outer space treaty and moon agreement are relevant to making a moon village. And well, as you have already noticed, 1979 was the last year the United Nations was able to make a legally binding instrument, treaty. And after that, as space activities develop, we just make recommendations. We just make recommendations called General Assembly resolutions and other names, guidelines. And latest one was made in June of this year, long-term sustainability guidelines, and well, 21 guidelines, and the detailed rules and implementation procedures for these guidelines, 21 guidelines, must be very important for making a moon village. So sorry, this sound is maybe very disturbing to you. Yes, safety space operations and so we will see what will happen the next several years. Then the first point, jurisdiction exercised on the moon. Well, jurisdiction is a legal term, but here, well, we can think jurisdiction nearly equal sovereignty. And on the Earth, in the national territories, well, exclusive sovereignty of each state is exercised. And well, if nobody owns the land, previously, well, first come, first served rule, and colonialization took place on the Earth. But virtually, we don't have that place anymore on the Earth. Then, well, two kinds of places, common area and common heritage of mankind, we have to think about for making a moon village now. I will come back to this point later. Because no country can have a territory in outer space, how national law can be applied is based on registration. this slide shows 4 categories of launching state. A state which launches an artificial object in outer space, and only one of which can register. And that country has sovereignty over that space object, satellite or space station, or even orbital stages of the rockets in outer space. The unique point is different from ships and aircraft. Space objects are not accorded nationality. So 4 categories of launching states, one of which have sovereignty. Even if that space object becomes space debris, that country has sovereignty, means that country has responsibility too. Then from here, about the comparison of Outer Space Treaty and Moon Agreement, well, the number is very different. The number of the parties are very different. So Outer Space Treaty is much, much more important, but just the Moon Agreement may be important in the future. So just a brief comparison. At first, the scope. Outer Space Treaty doesn't define outer space, and it just says outer space, including the Moon and other celestial bodies, the whole outer space. In contrast, for the purpose of the application of the Moon Agreement, Moon is just not the Moon. All celestial bodies other than the Earth and orbitals surrounding the all celestial bodies and trajectories. And there, that legal status of outer space, depending on the Outer Space Treaty and the Moon Agreement, is different. Article 2 of the Outer Space Treaty says, outer space is not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty, by means of the occupation, or by any other means. Occupation is allowed. Well, note has to be taken that occupation is allowed if it is in accordance with the international law, but appropriation, an element of sovereignty, is not permitted. The Moon Agreement says, well, the Moon and its Moon means all celestial bodies, and national resources are common heritage of mankind, and natural resources in place cannot be appropriated, owned by no person, states, or private persons. And once we are in the stage of developing natural resources in place, international regime shall be established, and in a community, in a joint way, we have to develop it. But then I should go back here. Yes. So ownership of the land, Outer Space Treaty, well, it's prohibited. And according to the Moon Agreement, that is prohibited too. But from the legal status is different. Outer space, for the parties which are, well, for the parties which ratify the Outer Space Treaty, it's just a common area. So it's like high seas. Those countries cannot claim territory, but there is a possibility that it's like fishing. Taking resources are free or in accordance with some rules, but not common heritage of mankind. Once that area is described as common heritage of mankind, free competition is prohibited. And international regime, including international organizations, have to be made before exploring and exploiting and owning it. Most countries are the members to the Outer Space Treaty. So from now, well, I will talk about the two kinds of interpretations of the Outer Space Treaty, because no explicit rules are provided for in the Outer Space Treaty about the space resources. One interpretation is what is not prohibited is free, so make a national law and go for it. The other interpretation is if no rule has been provided for. We have to find for international law, or, well, and after that, we have to make some framework. Joint exploitation should be made. And now, at this moment, we don't know which interpretations would be more prevalent. It depends on more technology than law, I think. And from 2017, Legal Subcommittee of the Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space started talking about the natural resources in outer space. And vertical axis is if private ownership is lawful or not. And horizontal axis is if mining should be, well, by international organization or free competition is allowed. And all at the first sight, it looks like a discussion if private ownership is lawful or not, but it's not the case. If we consider and if we witness the development of the discussion, the vertical axis does have only little meaning. Private ownership is eventually lawful, but the problem is if it can be taken by free competition or some procedures are needed. This is a comparison between the deep seabed exploitation and the future outer space resources exploitation. Already, well, deep seabed is the soil and subsoil of the high seas. Minerals, if minerals, cobalt or nickel, are in place in deep seabed, that doesn't belong to anybody. And deep seabed is described as common heritage of mankind. And International Seabed Authority, international organization headquartered in Jamaica, makes very detailed, complicated procedures. And if applicant, well, private company or state, get a license, then moment, in accordance with the licensed rules, a person who gets the minerals from deep seabed, they have ownership. The procedures, that rules, well, green part, that is complicated. So about the space resources, outer space is not a common heritage of mankind unless a country is a party to the Moon Agreement. So for the most of the advanced spacefaring nations, it's not a common heritage of mankind, just outer space, just a common area. So the rules should be lightened. Well, rules are supposed to be lightened logically. So now, for instance, the Hague International Space Resources Working Group are trying to find a rule how to peacefully get space resources for the use, for the further exploitation, for exploration in outer space. Time is very limited, so from here, I'll be very brief. For the first stage, it's not possible that only private companies can explore and exploit the moon. So some intergovernmental agreement are needed. Intergovernmental agreement, well, treaties about the exploration are made it like this. Well, mostly, more often than not, two kinds of agreement. Framework agreement that are legally binding basic rules. And those basic rules are repeatedly used in the same rules. And then detailed content of a specific, well, and depending on an exploration, so white part, this description of a mission are provided for. And if we see the ISS, International Space Station Agreement, red letters, articles, are framework agreement, well, green part. And blue letters part are found in implementing arrangement, which are, well, mission specific mission specific description, and others black letters rules that are ISS specific. So International Space Station Intergovernmental Agreement are made A plus B plus C. So yellow parts are very specific traits found in this current International Space Station. So if we are to make Moon Station Agreement, so new elements should be found. A and B are already there. We already have experience for making agreements. And also ISS agreements, that's three-tier agreements, governmental agreements, space agency to space agency, MOU, and other guidelines. Here, now, we are having more and more private actors. So 4-tier mechanisms are needed. So conclusion, so legal aspects. Well, I didn't have enough time to talk about legislation and the space object, the legislation systems which generate jurisdiction and sovereignty. So sovereignty matters have to be addressed. And then, second part, refine new elements. So we need new elements to make a moon station agreement. And we have to find appropriate rules for the moon specific, including the environmental matters. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
So I have two items of good news. The first item of good news, we have received the video from Jan Woerner. So a little late, but I think, as I said, logistics, it was certainly done on time, but just it got to us a little late. And secondly, in order to do the upload and everything else, we are going to go ahead and take a short coffee break. I know we are behind the time, but nevertheless, it gives us a chance to get the next portion of the conference, the program organized. So, but please, please, please try for 5 minutes. And I believe if everybody tries hard for 5 minutes, then we will start again in 10 minutes. But please, please try for 5 minutes. If you are a speaker in the next session, so in particular, Macintosh-san and Wu Sensei and Sri Kumar from India, Israel, please come to the front just to say hello and a little coordination. So thank you very much. See you in 4 minutes. seats. It is now officially 5 minutes. Official time. So, sumimasen. Osake ga nomitaii desu ga? So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce once again Giuseppe Reibaldi, the president of the Moon Village Association, to offer a brief overview. After Giuseppe, if you would please do the introduction for Dr. Woerner. We have his video loaded, and his greeting to the conference will immediately follow Giuseppe's remarks. So please, Giuseppe.
Thank you, John. Is it working?
And you are loaded just down.
Okay, all right. So hopefully everything should work. So again, I'm back here, but you will not see much of me except for another couple of occasions for today. So I'm not going to welcome you again because I did already before. So what I would like to do is to share with you, hopefully within the time allocated, what the Moon Village Association is, why it has been created, and what are we doing. So I'll start first with a bit of a generality, which everybody knows, but it's better sometimes to repeat. So as way we see the moon exploration is, of course, a step-by-step process. And so we are presently going with Scout mission, and we will be pleased to give some prizes later on, which I'll come back on that, on those what we call Scout mission. Then we will have a medium term, which is basically starting from 2024, US going forward to the moon, together with a number of other countries, and creating some infrastructure, as we will discuss later on. And then, of course, the long term. The long term is not a moon base. The long term is many moon bases. And I think basically that is the concept of the Moon Village. So the Moon Village, you can see what it is and what it is not. So let's talk what it is. So it is an assemble of the global effort. So when people say we will have in the future the Moon Village, that is wrong. The Moon Village has started. Those scouting missions and the prize that we are going to give in about an hour and a half, are a testimony that the Moon Village is there. It started. So please, when you talk with the people, don't think about that the Moon Village is something for the 15, 20 years. To the public, to the press. The Moon Village is now, it's just starting. And I think all of you can be proud of the very root of it. So it is basically putting together all the multi-stakeholder, which is industry, as well as government, as well as institution. And please do not forget the public. The public must play an important role. Going forward to the moon, to stay, it's so important for all humanity that we need to bring everybody on board. And so I think it is basically a lunar community. So the Moon Village, it is something which is already there and has got different steps. And I think we are already in the first step. What is not, it is not an ISS, meaning it's not a unique program. We have seen before from the previous speaker the complexity of basically dealing with ISS issues. I personally had worked only 16 years in the International Space Station in various capacity, so I have a bit of understanding what does it mean. Well, what we are trying to do with the Moon Village is something, hopefully try to little bit simplify the approach. It is not a village itself, so there is no church, there is no mayor, as Woerner was saying, and it is not one single facility. So it's a distribution. So I hope with now we have clarified once and for all what the meaning of the Moon Village is, and I'm sure that everybody can find himself or herself in that definition. Now, what is the Moon Village Association? I think you had the video. I think some of you might have seen the video. And basically, it is an association created in June 2017. And it is to foster the implementation of the Moon Village. So because you need an entity to try to help that. So I think it's a frame, it's a forum to put together all these stakeholders. So it is constituted of many countries, as you can see, 40 countries, and is a catalyst to stimulate the circle of investment. And you see there a number of institutions from 10 countries. So it's out of members as well institutional. And then I think this is a very important difference with all other organizations. So now, what is the concept? How is the architecture? Well, architecture is a concept first. We discussed that. But then we have a principle. So the principle are basically the 9 principles that you might have seen earlier, and you can watch on the website. Those principles encompass principle of cooperation and respect, basically, for the international treaty. And the reason why we define the principle is because we need to define boundaries. Boundaries are necessary to go from a concept to implementation. So by means of the principle, you can see in the picture, we are defining boundaries. Then we have to start to populate those boundaries. Population of those boundaries comes outside the MVA and inside the MVA. So outside the MVA, we are looking around what missions are going on and what activity are going on in the world. And there are a lot of them. But many of them, they are not known and they are not recognized. So we decided to establish prizes and awards. And in this workshop, for the first time, we're going to give a prize to the missions, hardware mission, and we have a chart later what they are, and also to activity. And so our activity, which are going on, we have nothing to do with them. They are national organizations doing that, but we want them to recognize them because they are following the spirit of the 9 principles. And I think that's important that we recognize as an organization. But then the MVA itself is also trying as a platform to do something. So it's trying to do some activity, and some of these activities are project working group and the establishment of a global network. So all of this, basically, if you like, it's pushing towards fostering peaceful cooperation. And I think this is, if you like, in a nutshell, is the goal of the association. Now, you have seen that it's complex to have implementation agreement like ISS. The basic simplification of the Moon Village is that if all stakeholders adhere to those principles, we do not need any specific agreement between them. They will behave in a certain way, and by behaving in a certain way, it will be much easier for them to cooperate. So the association is not taking a lead to make a cooperation agreement. The participant will do that. It is a platform. The platform as an infrastructure can be used, should be used, and we hope that, of course, space agency as well as industry coming here with many industry also from Japan today, they will take this opportunity to create network and to establish venture and to really try to move forward. And the goal, as I said, it is basically to have every country develop and developing country together in this endeavor, which is so important. So what we have said is what are those prizes? Well, we have defined, just to recognize them, what we call mission and activity prizes. And we have started from this year because they all started in Los Angeles in basically last year, 2018. So the goal is basically to engage stakeholders from all over the world between possible cooperation. Now, the Moon Village Principle Mission Prize is the first one. So why do we give this prize? Is because we have been looking to a number of missions which have been taking place recently, and in order of historical reason, starting from LRO from NASA, which is going on since the last 10 years, Chang'e 4, which landed at the beginning of this year, and of course the Indian mission Chandrayaan-2. What they have in common is that we have looked how well they were in line with the Moon Village Principle. I'm pleased to tell you that they all are. Some mission a bit more in some parameter, some mission a bit less, but at the end of the day, they are all in line with Moon Village Principle. And so we are pleased, and we have created a prize, which we'll discuss later in the ceremony, and we really are very much honored to give this prize to those organizations which are embodying the principle already included in the Moon Village Principle itself. And so we will have a ceremony for that. Then we have also activity. So activity is everything else except hardware. And so activity means a university doing an activity, a research center, a space agency. And this activity they want to share with the rest of the world. So they submit to us. We had a call for activities. And we have received several input from a number of organizations worldwide. And we have basically selected what is called Sustainable Moon by the International Space University as the award prize for 2019. So this event will take place tomorrow, just before the ending. And the advantage of this is that we are going to put on our website, which will start to become full of content, really all this activity, so that the people can go on the website and see what is going on, for instance, in Africa, what's going on in Kuwait, what's going on in another part of the world. And you might find out that your company, your institution, like to really get some cooperation with them. I think this is the goal: increase, foster cooperation at all levels. So I'm going to be very quickly on this. This is topics, which is going to be also the topics of the breakout session. So the chairman will take care. Just a few words about that. Each of the working group has created what is called a white paper, which will be the basis for running the breakout session. So each of the co-chairs, basically there is one MVA and one non-MVA members. They will run those sessions and will go with you and explain the work which is done and is open for discussion and, of course, participation for the continuation of this activity, each in his own domain. We have also an important feature, just in order to basically get the public, you need to speak the language of the different country. So you need to have regional networks. So we have a number of regional workshops. I have to say that the first regional network was China. As a matter of fact, the website has been translated in Chinese already since 1 year and a half. We don't have one yet in Japan, and I hope that after this workshop, we will get a good network here in Japan, as we will see later. The goal of those networks is to really dialogue with the public, explain to them from the global perspective why it's important, the moon, and to receive feedback from the public, what do they feel it is important. And so in this direction that we have undertaken some other activities. So one of the other topics I'd like to share briefly with you, we decided, apart from the working group, we need to do something concrete. And by the way, this was a suggestion also made from some of our industrial partners. So we felt that we want to start simple. And the most simple way is to have a camera. I can't go simpler than that. And what you do with a camera, or more than a camera, we like to look, believe it or not to the moon. Everybody is looking to the moon. But we would like to look to the Earth. And you know that the Apollo mission created the so-called overview effect, which was at the root of many environmental movements. And so we like to start from where they left. So we would like to have the public be able, one full moon day or not, to go on a website and see what the hell do we see from the moon towards the Earth. I think this will give a huge impact on what is perceived the space activity. And so this is for us. And of course, we will try to do also science. It's not just an outreach activity. We like to do science, which is exoplanet, as well as Earth observation. So that is the topic of this payload. There is a breakout session. There is a project manager from MBA side. We are seeking, of course, for participation from landers, which they will be pleased to host us, the camera. But in order to make it even easier, we are also seeking to have a demonstration of this process by using existing spacecraft, which they can just move the camera towards the Earth. We are discussing with the United Nations, and I'm pretty confident that we might get an agreement with the United Nations so that we are also together with them in this endeavor. So you see there a number of people. Talking about the United Nations, I want to mention something which I forgot earlier. We have been basically admitted, basically officially, as a United Nations COPWAS observer status. So as of January 2020, Moon Village Association will be the only global moon organization which will allow, it will be possible to make presentation to 94 countries of COPUOS. And of course, this is important for all of you because you can bring messages to us which you feel important, and we can bring, after we have discussed it within ourselves, bring forward this to the COPUOS. So please, let's make use. And by the way, there is a presentation from a former chairman of COPUOS, Dorin Prunarium, which will be talking about how he sees a possible role of MBA, but you are all open for discussion because there is nothing cast in concrete. That's the advantage of our organization. It's a small, lean organization made of volunteer. I forgot to mention, some of the people say, but how much money are people making in this organization? They actually don't making money, they are investing money. And I want to tell you that when I was in ESA, for me, it was fate straightforward that the contractor, they were working for me because I was giving them money. Now I'm in a situation where people are working, but not for me, for the organization, but I give them no money at all. Actually, they invest money. So I can tell you, this is a totally different perspective. But of course, it's more rewarding. You have to be a bit more patient with the people because the availability of time. But nevertheless, the results are here in front of you, and the fact that we are a full house here means that probably we are doing something useful. So I just like to close with one of the examples of what we are doing. The first global consultation about the public, what the public feel about the moon and the moon exploration. We are doing together with the World Space Week Association, which I hope many of you knows. The theme of this year is the moon, Gateway to the Star. So we have developed to them a survey which is for young people till 18, and then from 18 onwards. It has been translated in 6 or 8 countries. It's basically on the website. And we are going to present the result of this global survey to the COPUOS, as we said earlier. But what I can show you is some intermediate result. The survey is still open till the 31st of December. You can see a number of countries which is replied. But unfortunately, again, Japan has not, we didn't get any reply from Japan. So I think this workshop is very timely. So please go on the website of the World Space Week Association or the MBA. Please fill in the form and give us the feeling. And please do that in the public. You are all people interested in space. I think we like to hear from people which are not really direct in space. And so my last point is related with another initiative, which is the Moon, Women on the Moon initiative. We feel we need to encourage female representation in moon-related program. The percentage at this point in time is not very satisfactory in average in all the country. We want to give a very small contribution in this direction. So that's why we have created this initiative. You can see some of the elements there. And in Kyoto, we will be talking more in extensive of this. So I just want to flash. Last point is that we have a cooperation with Institute or International Lunar Observatory Association, with whom basically they have a competition. And this competition is related to NSA. And the prize is to go to China for the February 2020 conference, Galaxy Forum. And we are basically in the process of evaluating. So with that, I'd like to stop. I'm sorry I was a bit over time, but thank you so much, and I wish you a good continuation of the meeting. Thank you. Yes, so I was asked indeed by John, but I don't need to introduce Woerner, because I think everybody knows him. So we just had a few minutes of delay on the showing the video, but the good news is it's a very short video. So please go ahead.
Dear friends of the Moon Village Association, it's really a pity that I cannot be with you in Japan, because Japan is really my favorite country. However, I have to be here in Europe and going from one country to the other to our member states. And of course, I'm trying to convince all of them also to go together to the moon. Moon Village, this is really the idea which is still working. And it's good that we have this expression, because what I said at the beginning, multi-partner open concept is just not a narrative. So therefore, I'm very happy that you created the Moon Village Association, and I hope that together we can really make a way forward to go forward to the moon, not back to the moon, not in competition and in race in space, but to go forward to the moon, to jointly really explore this small moon close to our Earth, and to use the moon also as a test bed and a springboard to go further into our universe. So all the best for you, and I hope to see you soon again, either in Europe or on another continent. Thank you very much.
So, now it is my pleasure to introduce Wakata Sensei, the Vice President of JAXA for human spaceflight. Please. And also one more Japanese astronaut. Thank you. So, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnson. Good morning, everybody. My name is Koichi Wakata. I'm a JAXA astronaut, currently serving as a Vice President for Human Space Flight and Exploration at the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. I think JAXA is the only national university that has a name in the name Exploration. I'm very proud of it. And it's my honor to be here at this session with all of you here at the Moon Village Association Symposium and workshop. Today I would like to talk about the JAXA's activities in human space flight exploration on low Earth orbit and beyond, as well as our vision and future perspectives in exploration. So looking back the history of human space exploration since the first flight of Yuri Gagarin back in 1961, humankind has expanded its presence in outer space almost every 2 decades, I would say. And humanity expanded our frontier in space in an amazing tempo under the Cold War in the 60s, as we all know. And in the 80s, we have established the frequent flights to the low Earth orbit and long-duration stay technologies in space. Russia has demonstrated that. And in the 2000s, sustainable long-duration spaceflight capabilities and utilization capabilities on the low Earth orbit was established with the International Space Station. Also in the 2000s, China has made a remarkable progress in human spaceflight activities. And in the upcoming 2020s, we will establish human outposts beyond the low Earth orbit to the moon with international cooperation. And in the 2040s, it is expected that we will be establishing our sustainable presence on the moon in preparation for Mars forward activities. Currently, the low Earth orbit is the primary area of activities of human space flight. And to date, the human activities on the low Earth orbit have been led by the government, and the roles of the private sector in the low Earth orbit utilization is expanding in a very fast tempo. And we are expecting the LEO utilization will be led by the private sector, making the LEO a business field, while the government-led activities will shift to the areas beyond the low Earth orbit, that is the moon. And led by the United States, we will be establishing our next human outpost, the Gateway, on the lunar orbit. And the Gateway will allow us to access various points on the lunar surface. Sustainable access to the surface of the moon will allow us to utilize the moon for scientific exploration as well as resource utilization. The moon surface will also serve as a test field of technology demonstration for sustainable human presence on the moon, as well as for going forward to Mars to expand the activity sphere of humankind. So the International Space Station, I had a privilege to work on the ground as well as in space to assemble and utilize the space station. The assembly of the International Space Station started in 1998, and we have continuous human presence on the ISS since November of 2000. So the next year will mark the 20th anniversary of a continuous human presence on board the International Space Station. This is an amazing accomplishment of humanity. So ISS is an internationally cooperative program enabling partners to efficiently conduct the space environment utilization. It's a foundation to acquire human spaceflight infrastructure technology. And ISS created benefits to humanity through science and research, also as a test bed to demonstrate new technology to go farther beyond the low Earth orbit. And also it is an enabler to cultivate new businesses in a low Earth orbit by the private sectors. So the objectives of the international space exploration. This is multifold. The core objective is, as you can see in the middle, it's an expansion. It's expansion of human activities. And in order to enable this objective in a sustainable manner, we need to obtain new technology, new knowledge, and create the new business market. Establishing a peaceful society, technological innovation, education capacity building, and also technology demonstration for deep space exploration are all part of this objective, sets of objectives of the international space exploration. So based on the 20-year experience of ISS utilization, in order to make the low Earth orbit a new business field, we need to expand the private sector initiatives as well as promote utilization basis on and off. Basically, attached to the space station, maybe coming off as a free flyer from the space station, and also beyond the ISS or Kibo module towards creating a business field in low Earth orbit. And this chart shows JAXA's scenarios for international space exploration. Our president, Dr. Yamakawa, has already briefed you in the beginning of this session this morning. But here's the graphical presentation of our perspective or scenario. And we will continue to utilize the ISS to maximize the outcome of the utilization. That's on the lower area to the right of the Earth. And JAXA will be participating in the gateway based on our technological strength. On the moon, we are aiming to acquire pinpoint landing technology through the SLIM mission. And this SLIM mission is followed by a mission to launch an international exploration with India's ISRO to the lunar polar region to confirm the existence of water and its availability as a resource. And its launch is, we're working towards the 2023 timeframe, and we're also developing a Martian moon's exploration mission called MMX to observe and return samples from the Martian moons. And this mission is targeted for the launch in fiscal year 2024. And all of these initiatives are positioned to contribute to the expansion of scope of human activities, as well as the acquisition of scientific achievements. So this is the JAXA's long-term roadmap of lunar exploration. We are planning the step-by-step approach for sustainable lunar exploration. We plan to develop and establish and the transportation cargo delivery type technologies. And second technology development will be for manned systems. And next steps will be on infrastructure construction for sustainable exploration. And finally, we expect the private sector will lead the lunar base construction for a sustainable stay on the surface of the moon. As Dr. Yamakawa mentioned about the International Space Exploration Coordination Group, ISXG, currently 20 space agencies are now working together. And JAXA is currently the serving chairing space agency since 2018. The purpose of the ISXG is to provide a long-term forum to discuss interests, objectives, and plans in space exploration, and to support the promotion of interest and engagement in space exploration activities throughout the society. The work of ISEC-G results in documents, papers, findings, and recommendations that are critical for individual agencies' decision-making for their own governments. And in January of 2018, ISEC-G released the third iteration of the Global Exploration Roadmap, the GER3, demonstrating the growing interest in space exploration and importance of the cooperation to realize individual and common goals and objectives in exploration. And we are currently working on the updating of the GER3, the Global Exploration Roadmap in the ISEC-G effort. So decision by the government of Japan, strategic headquarters of the national space policy led by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was held in October 18th actually, and the government of Japan officially at the time decided to join the international space exploration and to proceed on international coordination in the 4 cooperation areas, which I will describe in the next slide. So the 4 cooperation areas of the government of Japan announced in October includes those 4 items in the white rectangular areas. First one is the provision of technology and equipment in Japan's areas of strength for Gateway Phase 1 in initial part of Gateway. And the second one to the lower left, sharing lunar surface data and technologies contributing to the selection of the landing sites of the human landings, utilizing our lunar exploration missions. Number 3, upper right, cargo and fuel supply missions for Gateway using HTV-X and H3 launch vehicles. We have successfully completed the 8th mission of HTV, that's a cargo supply vehicle to the International Space Station. And the first one was launched 10 years ago. And with the current configuration, we will be launching another HTV-9 in the next fiscal year. And after that, we will have a new vehicle called the HTV-X that is currently under development for a maiden flight planned in fiscal year 2021. That HTV-X will not only carry cargoes to the International Space Station, but also it could go to the moon, going around the moon to supply logistics to the Gateway. The number 4 area of collaboration is, as you can see on the lower right corner, that's the developing transportation vehicles to support the lunar surface exploration, and JAXA is currently working with Toyota Corporation on the joint study of a pressurized crew rover. We are working on the lunar surface exploration mission, as shown here on this chart. The SLIM smart lander for investigating the moon is scheduled for fiscal year 2021 launch for demonstration of pinpoint lunar landing technologies, precision landing capabilities of the spacecraft on the surface of the moon. And also, we are working with India's ISRO on the lunar polar exploration mission. This is in order to obtain knowledge of water resources on the moon, and we're targeting for 2023 timeframe for launch of this mission. For sustainable lunar exploration, this is very crucial. And for the sustainable lunar exploration, we consider that it is essential to develop Japan's key technologies and apply these technologies to future exploration, as well as to encourage technological competitions among the industries. At JAXA, we have established Space Exploration Innovation Hub Center 5 years ago to enhance the research and development for exploration. Actually, the leader, the JAXA's Space Exploration Innovation Hub Center, the director, Dr. Kubota is here, so if you have any questions, you can ask him for further details. But at this Space Exploration Innovation Hub Center, we are focusing on the research topics of these 5 areas that you can see: exploration, production, support, construction, habitation. And so far, in the past 4 years, we worked with 129 companies on 75 different research objectives. So targeting at the utilization of this study for the space exploration as well as terrestrial applications. So it has been a very successful scheme that we have established in this Space Innovation Hub Center. And in preparation for a full-fledged human space surface exploration on the moon, we are promoting collaboration and R&D with industries, as I just described. And these, what you see, are just a few examples of this effort. And we are working on a mobility study on the moon with Toyota, autonomous construction technology with Kashima Corporation. Somebody showed the video of the Kashima Corporation of automatic autonomous construction equipment control program, and also agricultural technologies study with Panasonic and Kirin. Through the gateway activities and launch support, JAXA is planning to provide opportunities to send small probes and satellites to for academia and also for the industry, including new space and startups. We hope to publicly announce the opportunities very soon. For sustainable exploration activities, first of all, robust activities by space agency is essential. And we need to promote these 4 areas that you can see, those yellow-colored areas, the creation of new businesses, more participation of non-space industry, more entry of startups, and, of course, strong collaboration with science and community. So in conclusion, towards the future of international space exploration, we at JAXA are aiming to advance human space exploration with common goals of contributing to intellectual assets, expanding human sphere into outer space. JAXA will actively participate in international discussions and advance space exploration by making the most of our scientific and technical expertise and experiences. International cooperation and joint efforts of the industry, academia, government, and space agencies are the key for a successful future of exploration. And we have great expectations on the MVA's missions and its ongoing efforts. Thank you very much for your attention.
Our next presentation will be from Garvey McIntosh, who is the NASA representative for Asia here in Tokyo at the U.S. Embassy. So please, McIntosh.
So thank you very much. While we're getting our presentation set up, I just wanted to kind of say a couple of opening remarks. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Giuseppe and your leadership. Many people at NASA headquarters asked me to come and convey the appreciation for all of your efforts to put this kind of group together, including Mike Gold, who I know is a friend of yours. He said he couldn't make it, but thank you for all your efforts. You know, I started at NASA in 2003, and I think John Mankins left in around 2005 or so, but his contributions to NASA are well documented, and your contributions to the overall space community are much, much appreciated. And Dr. Inatani, we interact in many different aspects, including last week in Nagoya, and I've never seen a guy with more energy. He's always running around. So you picked a really good guy to run your operations here in Japan. And in the co-chairs, Professor Aoki and Professor Doi and Astronaut Doi and Astronaut Chiaki Mukai, I get to interact with these people in my job here in Japan in many, many aspects. And you guys are true ambassadors for the overall space community. Thanks for your contributions as well. I am the NASA representative based here in Tokyo. NASA only puts 3 representatives in the world at embassies throughout the world. I'm here in Tokyo. We have a representative in Europe for the European Space Agency and all of Europe, and we put a person in Moscow. And I think we put a person here because of our strong partnership with Japan. You know, in addition to the International Space Station, that's what's been talked about, well documented today, we also work with Japan in earth science, looking back on Earth, heliophysics, looking at the sun, planetary science, astrophysics, looking out in the solar system, aeronautics research, and including educating the next future generations of science, technologists, engineers, astronauts in the world. And the leadership of the Japanese leadership, Dr. Yamakawa and Koichi, Wakata, and Vice President and President Dr. Yamakawa. I'd just like to say thank you for all your leadership, and I expect that our collaboration will continue in the future because of your strong leadership that you have at JAXA. I'd just like to start off my presentation with a short video that kind of maybe outlines where we want to go in space. And then, is there sound?
We have a bold vision to go, and we do so knowing that space exploration has improved the human condition in countless ways. And it is the partnerships over the last 50 years that have ensured a steady progress in the science, technology, exploration, and discovery for the benefit of all. With America's new directive to put humans on the moon in 2024, NASA is leading the development of exploration capabilities, and we are building a coalition of nations that can help us get to the moon quickly and sustainably together.
Building on the lessons learned from the International Space Station, the key to sustainable lunar missions is establishing an orbiting lunar outpost that we call Gateway.
America will develop and launch Gateway's power propulsion element in the near future. This outpost will be built with open standards to allow collaboration and accessibility with our international and private partners.
The first of these international partnerships is a commitment from Canada to develop advanced robotics uniquely designed for human and robotic missions.
Accelerating the timeline means a lot more focus, means a lot more dedication to the task, and we're up for it.
We are looking to our international partners to develop additional components for Gateway, to include habitation capabilities, airlock, and logistics.
Gateway is a great step towards the future of the human being. It's a great pleasure to collaborate with NASA in that endeavor.
The Gateway is not the end state. It is a piece of a greater mission that will prove how to explore other worlds. With Mars on the horizon, together we can explore more of our solar system, our galaxy, and even the entire universe, and share in the knowledge and advances that will come.
NASA is one of our major cooperation partners in space exploration.
By going together to the moon, forward to the moon, whatever the time span is, the faster the better. That's something I really like.
We welcome a growing list of partners. And through our successes, we will change our perspective on the universe for generations to come. We go together.
And so that kind of sums up what we plan to do in the future. We want to have a sustainable presence on the lunar surface, on the way to eventual missions to Mars, and we want to do it with international partners. And so a forum like this, where we all get to talk about what we can do together on the moon, I think is very, very important. So NASA is only 60 years old. People think that NASA has been going on forever, but we were founded in 1958. And last year, we celebrated 60 years in existence. And we look back at what happened in 60 years. I think it's truly amazing. We landed a first man on the moon in 1969, 50 years ago, and we had 6 successful missions to the moon, ending in 1972. After that, we built the International Space Station and had hundreds of astronauts go up to the International Space Station and continue to learn how to live and work in space, including the astronauts that spoke to you today, Chiaki, Mukai, Takao, and Koichi Wakata. And now, what's next? I think we feel at NASA that we've learned how to go to long distances by going to the lunar surface, and we learned how to live and work in space for long periods of time through the International Space Station. So we think that going back to the lunar surface on a sustainable way is the logical next step. But I think the key thing that makes us a little bit different is that we really want to do this with what we learned before, working with international partners, but also involving the commercial sector in many ways as we can. So I think the basis of what we want to do is the International Space Station. I think the International Space Station has been a very unbelievable positive thing for the entire world. And we want to continue to leverage that and continue to live and work in space and use that as a platform for eventual missions to Mars. Eventual missions to the moon on the way to Mars. And as you may know, next year I think we'll already have 20 years of continued human presence on the International Space Station with our many, many astronauts who have been up to the International Space Station. Including, I mean, one thing to notice, during the Apollo missions, there were actually no females that went up to on any of those missions. And now we've had many female astronauts go up to the International Space Station, including, as you know, earlier last month, when we had our first female spacewalk up at the International Space Station. I think it's a very important thing to note is how far we've come in terms of involving females. And the name of Artemis is in Greek mythology is the twin sister of Apollo. And so we want to try to, we named that because we really want to involve females and ladies in terms of going back to the moon. And our NASA administrator, Jim Bridenstine, who you heard speak earlier, always says that when we go back to the moon in 2024 with astronauts, we want to have our first female and our next man go back to the lunar surface. And mentioned earlier, international cooperation is very key to what we plan to go. And I just want to kind of give you an update on where we stand in terms of international collaboration. I mentioned earlier that last month, from the highest levels in Japan committed to work with us on going back to the moon on our Artemis program, so we're very proud of that point. Earlier this year, Canada said that they want to work with us to go back to the moon at the highest levels. And we also have smaller countries like Australia who want to work with us on going back to the moon. And right now we have a team in Europe discussing how we can work together to go back to the moon. So I think we're trying to build on the lessons of the International Space Station and continue to have as many international partners work with us in this endeavor as we can. Just want to kind of give you an update on where we stand in terms of transportation going back to the moon. We're building a rocket called the Space Launch System, SLS. That'll be the most powerful rocket ever built. That will be the rocket that will take us up to back to the lunar surface, and we're going to bring our astronauts back home safely in a capsule called the Orion Crew Capsule. In terms of logistics of the International Space Station, as you may know, cargo has been taken up by commercial partners, primarily SpaceX and Northrop Grumman, and we expect to have SpaceX and Boeing take our astronauts up through crew transportation sometime in the near future. So this is just one way that we're continuing to try to work with our commercial partners as much as possible. I won't talk much this slide. I've kind of mentioned this already. And we're calling this our Moon to Mars program. I mean, in the near term, we want to go back to the lunar surface, but our eventual goal is to have human presence on Mars, and just kind of give you a way of why we have to take incremental steps. The International Space Station, or low Earth orbit, is just a few hours away. It takes a few days to get to the lunar surface, and it takes about 6 to 9 months to get to Mars. And there's a lot of things we have to work on before we can eventually get humans to Mars. So we're trying to use this as an incremental step in terms of getting back to our eventual goal of going to Mars. The program, as I mentioned before, is called Artemis. Just kind of give you an overview of what the overall plans are. I think you may have heard it before. In the near term, 2024, we want to have our first woman and our next man back to the lunar surface. And then we want to kind of begin the process of building Gateway, or kind of complete Gateway, in the 2028 timeframe. So that's kind of the timeframe we're working on. And in terms of trying to find innovative ways to involve the commercial sector, if you look back on the left-hand side, Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, that's a program where we have task orders, and we fund companies. We selected 9 companies that takes scientific and technology payloads up to the lunar surface. We've already selected a few already, and we expect to select many more in the future. So this is just one way that we kind of want to continue to involve the commercial sector. And just one note is, I think there's a couple of my friends here from iSpace. iSpace is one of the companies that is working with a company called Draper Laboratories from MIT. Draper is the prime on a contract that received the opportunity to bid on these payloads to the Commercial Lunar Payload Services Program, and they've worked there, have a subcontractor, they have iSpace, which is based here in Japan, to work with them. So we're very impressed with how the commercial sector has kind of self-selected themselves in terms of ways to kind of build on these contracts, and it's something that we're excited about, and maybe we can involve more international companies in that way as well. So congratulations to iSpace. So kind of talked about this before. I think that two key elements I want to talk about is the power and propulsion element. This kind of give the force to go up on Gateway, and the pressurized module, is where the astronauts will be able to stay for short periods of time and be able to be very go down to the lunar surface through the habitat module that we're going to build up on the Gateway. Talked about Gateway. We really believe that the Gateway is the infrastructure that gives us long-term exploration of the lunar surface and gives us a more sustained presence because of its flexibility. And the word gateway means just that. It's a gateway to go down to the lunar surface, but also we're envisioning that it would be a gateway to be able to give us that gateway to eventually go on to Mars. You can kind of read this for yourself, but these are just a couple what Gateway enables us to do, as we talked about earlier. I think the key things that it gives us strategic presence on the moon for long duration stays, and it's an open architecture and building blocks for partnerships and future expansion. We expect that Gateway will be very international, as the International Space Station was, and so we're looking forward to all of the eventual international contributions that we get. And I've already mentioned a few that we're planning, such as Canada, Australia, and obviously our friends in Japan, here in Japan. And just want to kind of mention about the spacesuits. Spacesuits, as you know, is what keeps our astronauts like Koichi safe. And we expect that we will have new modernized spacesuits. And we've already had a RFI, a request for proposal, sent out in the U.S. for new spacesuits to be built. I told Inatani Sensei, Professor Inatani, that I would not go over, and I'm trying to keep into my 20 minutes. But I just wanted to kind of reemphasize that, I think looking back at our short space history, at least at NASA for 60 years, we really believe the time is now. There's no better time. As I mentioned before, just to sum it up, we know that we can go to long distance. We've been to the moon. We've been to the moon successfully 6 times. We know that we can live for long durations in space. We've had the International Space Station, continuous human presence on the International Space Station for 20 years. So that really, I think, going back to the moon combines what we learned in the past and gives us that, and with the Gateway, we have that long-term sustainability, that's something we at NASA is really excited about. And we hope that we can bring as many people from the international and commercial communities with us. Again, closing, thanks, Dr. Giuseppe, for your leadership, and I look forward to a good 2 days of talking together how we can make going back to the moon very, very exciting for us in the space community and for the entire world. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much. And next, I would like to introduce Professor Wu, representing the China National Space Agency. This is Professor Wu, and this gentleman will be translator for Professor Wu.
Can we get a second microphone? Can we get a second microphone? Second microphone. Yeah, right, for the translator.
我介绍一下中国的探月工程。
Good morning. Can you hear me? Good morning. My name is Professor Wu, who's standing behind me. Next to me. I'm from Lunar Exploration Center.
中国从
Wait. Lunar Exploration Center of CNSA. It is my great pleasure to be here and have this opportunity to give a brief introduction of China's lunar exploration program.
中国从2004年开始实施探月工程，我们一共实施了15次任务，分别实现了月球环绕、正面和月球背面着陆。
Since 2007, China's lunar exploration program was successfully carried out 5 different missions and accomplished orbiting, landing on the near side and also the far side of the moon. The sample return mission is scheduled to be launched next year.
简单点，嫦娥1号2007年10月24号发射，主要实现了全月球普查，获得了120米分辨率的全月图。另外呢，在轨运行了494天。
Chang'e 1 probe was launched on October 24th, 2007. The main task is to get the remote sensing of the moon, of the lunar surface. It has obtained the full moon map with the resolution of 120 meters, and elevation map, and also the element contents, distribution, etc. Chang'e 1 had operated in orbit for 494 days. And before the controlled collision with the lunar surface.
嫦娥2号呢，2010年10月1号发射，获得了7米分辨率全月图和1.5米的局部影像图，实现了日地拉格朗2点探测。
And Chang'e 2 was launched on October the 1st, 2010, and obtained the full map images with a resolution and the local maps with 1.5 meters resolution. At the orbit with 100 by 15 flight orbit. On August the 25th, 2011, Chang'e 2 entered the orbiting surrounding the Sun-Earth L2 point to carry out the test.
它之后又对这图塔提示小行星进行了飞跃交会探测。目前呢，嫦娥2号实现了1探3，现在嫦娥2号正在围绕太阳运行。
Chang'e 2 has also accomplished a flyby mission of asteroid 4179 Tutatis. Chang'e 2 took the images of Tutatis at a short distance, as close as 3.2 kilometers, with a resolution of 10 meters. Chang'e 2 successfully explored 3 different targets in just one mission, and it is more than 100 million kilometers away from the Earth at present.
嫦娥3号呢是2013年12月2号发射，14天过后着陆在月球北纬44度，开展了就位探测。另外，玉兔号进行了巡视探测。
Chang'e 3 was launched on December the 2nd, 2013, and landed 12 days later. The probe landed on the preselected area in Sinus Iridium. After the soft landing, the rover named Yu-2 separated from the lander and carried out the in-situ exploration.
嫦娥3号实现了使中国成为第3个在月球着陆的国家，而且一次成功。我们采用了1/6重力的同位素热源，所以实现了在月球背面负180度情况的月夜生成。另外，在科学上呢，也首次获得了地球周围等离子体层变化情况，以及月表下面330米的第一张剖面图。目前着陆期呢，已经在月球工作了6年。
Chang'e 3 made China the 3rd country that achieved the lunar soft landing, and successfully achieved self-obstacle avoidance during the landing process. The probe survived the extreme low temperature during the lunar night, thanks to the lunar gravity two-phase fluid circuit and the radioisotope heat unit which has been used. Chang'e 3 has managed to obtain the images of plasma layer around the Earth and also the section view with 300 meters of the shallow layer of the lunar crust. Chang'e 3 lander has operated for more than 6 years and still counting.
通过这个探月工程实施啊，中国研制建设了中国的深空测控网，分别建设在佳木斯、喀什和阿根廷。天线最大口径66米，所以现在我们成为和美国还有ESA共同世界3大深空网之一。
China has developed the deep space monitoring and control network in multiple locations in China and abroad. And the antenna is reached 66 meters in diameter with S, X, and Ka frequency bands all available. Ensures the accurate determination of the orbit in moon and deep space exploration missions. China's deep space network has become one of the world's 3 deep space monitoring networks.
大家都知道，我们去年和今年实施了嫦娥4号任务。嫦娥4号实施了中继星和探测器2次发射。探测器呢用长征3号火箭，中继星呢用长征4号火箭，2次发射都在中国西部的西昌发射基地进行的。
The Chang'e 4 was designed as a backup satellite for Chang'e 3. But after the success of Chang'e 3 satellite, the probe, the Chang'e 4 has a new mission target, which is to land on the far side of the moon. The relay satellite is used for Chang'e 3 to get the communications between the probe and the ground station.
中继星呢是去年的5月21号首先发射，最后呢运行在距月球大概是8万公里左右的那个哈罗轨道上，然后实现了月球背面和地球之间的测控和中继通信，还开展了射频、低频天文观测。
A relay satellite was launched on May last year and played a key role in the lunar ground data communications. And okay, go on.
中继星和探测器之间，我们采用了 X 频段，和地面之间呢采用 S 频段进行通信。着陆器和地面之间采用了 X 频段，两器之间用 UHF 进行通信。
X-band is used for communications between the relay satellite and the probe, also between the lander and the ground station. S-band is used for communication between relay satellite and the ground station. A UHF band is used for communications between lander and rover. In Chang'e 4.
探测器是2018年12月8号成功发射，现在呢，先进入到100乘15公里的轨道上，最后呢着陆在月球。
The probe was launched on December the 8th last year, and soft landed on January the 3rd, 2019, and became the first lunar probe ever landed on the far side of the moon, and carry out in situ roving prospections and on the far side of the moon.
这里为了节省时间，我就不放这视频了。
Okay, to save time, the video clip is not played.
现在呢，经过国际天文联合会批准啊，我们把着陆地点命名为天河基地。1月3号，玉兔号啊，在完成了和着陆器的分离。分离过后呢，现在进行了地面在月球上进行科学探测，而且这个视频呢是着陆器巡视器从着陆器上走下来，我们可以看到前面有很大的坑。
After the power descent process, the lander is approximately 8 kilometers above the lunar surface, as we showed in the previous slides. And after the landing, the rover is separated from the lander and carry out the in situ exploration. The video clip cannot be played, unfortunately, today, and maybe we can play it later after the slide is finished. Yeah.
这是着陆器在着陆器上装了相机，这相机啊进行了360度的环拍。
This is a panoramic view of the camera, which above by the lander.
这个月球背面
We
我
can
们
show
发
later.
现啊，月球背面的坑比较多，石头比正面少。
The terrain conditions is more complicated than the near side, with all the rocks and the craters covered in different places in the far side.
我们配置了13台科学载荷，这中间呢搭载了荷兰、瑞典以及德国，还有我们沙特阿拉伯的4台科学载荷。
Chang'e 4 has multiple payloads, including the landing camera, panoramic camera, topographic camera, infrared imaging spectrometer, and low-frequency radio spectrometer, etc. Apart from these payloads, Chang'e 4 also has several international payloads from Holland, Sweden, Germany, and Saudi Arabia.
所以嫦娥4号开展了广泛的国际合作，多个国家做出了贡献。
We have accomplished the international level cooperation already in Chang'e 4.
我们还搭载了龙江号环月微卫星，进行超长波天文观测，还进行了月球生物科普实验。
We also did several in-orbit experiments, like the full-day imaging acquisition and full-day radio spectrometer measurement, etc. I'm not going for the details then.
后续呢，我们明年将在海南文昌发射场发射嫦娥5号，将实现月面太阳返回。
Next year, the Chang'e 5, which is the lunar sample return mission, will be launched. And compared to the previous mission, it can be concluded as 3 new 4 modules and 4 key technologies.
我明年发射的时候，欢迎大家到我们文昌发射场
And
参
we
观。
warmly welcomed everyone to go to the Hainan province, the launch site, to if it is have an opportunity to witness the launch of the Chang'e 5 mission.
关于未来的月球探测，那么现在啊，主要聚焦在月球南极，主要是2个问题。第一个问题啊，月球南极啊，有可能有180天的连续光照。第二呢，月球南极啊的永久云影坑里面有可能有水的存在。
We are currently working on the future planning of the China's lunar missions. We focus on the polar regions, especially in the South Polar region. In that region, there is a continuous illumination, which is able to provide long-term energy and sustainable and suitable temperature environment. The permanent shadow area, which adjacent to the continuous illumination area, may have water ice, volatiles, and other resources which we are extremely interested in.
2030年之前，我们将进行2到3次月球南极的探测任务，其中嫦娥7号啊准备开展一次综合性探测，嫦娥8号呢准备开展一次月球科研站建设的关键技术实验。
We are planning 2 or 3 different missions before 2030. And Chang'e 7, Chang'e 8 is right on the schedule, but Chang'e 6 is not so sure at the moment to land on the South Pole region or not. We're still working on it. Chang'e 7 is comprehensive exploration of lunar South Polar region in terms of topography, and also the material composition and the space environment investigation. And Chang'e 8 is more like focused on the key technology and scientific environment.
月球探测是全人类共同的事业，所以呢，我们进行准备更高的合作开放，大力开展国际合作。比如说，我们可以进行系统级的、分系统级的，还有单个载荷的多层次合作，也可以进行联合认证，技术合作或实施。嫦娥7号啊，我们准备拉出60公斤左右，和全世界各个国家开展合作。
China is warmly welcomed international cooperation, and it can be operated in mission level, or the system or subsystem level, or even the payload and the component level. We can manage to start the joint research and development, the mission planning, technological cooperation, joint implementation, and sharing of the scientific achievement, scientific data. And right now, we are considering that Chang'e 7 is planning to have at least 50 or 60 kilograms for the international payloads.
后续呢，我们想采用模块化的设计思想和标准化的接口，以开展国际合作，这样方便一些。所以，月球探测是人类共同追求，让我们一起去开发、认识宇宙、认识月球。
The future mission of China Lunar Program will adopt modular design concept and a standardized interface to facilitate the expansion and international cooperation. All partners can jointly developing the lunar orbital infrastructure to achieve joint construction of lunar research facilities and resource sharing. And we like to work together with whoever interested in the lunar exploration to make more friends and have this great international cooperation. Thank you so much.
谢谢。
Thank you.
Presentation of the morning is from Dr. Sri Kumar of Science Directorate at ESA, of the India Space Research Center. Please.
Thank you. Let me. Can you all hear me? Okay. Let me first thank the President and the Vice President of MVA for inviting ISRO to this meeting, and in particular for the persistence with which he actually pursued for us to actually participate in this meeting. It's a real pleasure to be here. You've already heard exciting programs from NASA, an exciting program from China on a really long program of lunar exploration. In comparison to these programs, ours is rather modest. We take it step by step. So I'll just quickly, in the very limited time that's available, give you an indication of how we began, where we intend to go. So we began about 10 years ago with the first mission, Chandrayaan-1. It was a pure simple orbiter mission. The idea was primarily science, but we also ensured that we had a large international collaboration in this program. We had an announcement of opportunity, and we were actually very happy to receive many proposals. And so in the 11 payloads that we had, majority from international partners, 2 from the United States, 3 from European Space Agency, and 1 from colleagues in Bulgaria, with the primary objective of really looking at global mapping, which continues to be a point of concern and interest, and also looking at volatile movements and topography. From the first mission of Chandrayaan-1, though there was evidence of water on the moon and the belief that it's no longer a dry location in the solar system, the proof for that really, we could actually make a greater contribution to this using spectroscopic signatures that suggested this widespread presence of surface water, as well as subsurface water with radars. And 10 years after the initial data observations in 2018, there was a paper that talked about the detection of surface water from reflectance, which is very, very important in the permanently shadowed regions of the moon. Presence of mini magnetospheres, residual magnetic fields on the surface of the sun, of the moon, from solar wind interactions was also important, using neutral atoms that were studied. And in the area of compositional studies, which is important both from mineralogy as well as from chemistry, and there's been a constant dichotomy of which way to go, I think we've been looking at trying to directly derive compositional abundance from sodium, for example, in this case. It came out of a spectroscopy of an instrument that was jointly done with the European Space Agency. So we had made some interesting initial results with regard to science. And then science was a focus. This is just some of the quick results that we've seen. And at the middle is where you see the two polar projections. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there are these blue-colored regions which suggest the actual presence of surface water from the IR data that was actually observed from Chandrayaan-1. Now with 2, we clearly want to really move one step forward, and that is in terms of actually having a more complex mission of not just an orbiter, but actually have a 3-phase program which included science for the surface. And the science for the surface was to be done with a lander and a rover. It was a 100-kilometer polar circular orbit. When you choose these circular orbits, really ensure scientific mapping of the moon is actually pursued. It was a nominal 1-year mission, but since the rocket was actually generous, we actually got some extra time. We hope we will be able to go for many years. And the surface, the orbiter mission the orbiter has about 8 payloads. And the surface science with the 2 experiments was to really initiate in situ observations. In particular, a focus of interest, and that is of interest to the Moon Village Association as well, is the evidence of water. Water is a very important thing, not just scientifically, but from the perspectives that MVA has been discussing. And that is to really quantify it a little bit more. So with the 3 dotted lines, what I've indicated are the 3 areas where we believe this mission from India could actually make important contributions. On the lower left, what you see is a synthetic aperture radar image that came from the mini-RF mini-SAR instrument contributed from the from the United States on Chandrayaan-1. On 2, what we've done is we got a dual frequency system, which actually would give us much more quantitative and absolutely much more convincing data regarding subsurface water. A very important thing when you're looking at trying to establish a base on the moon. And the idea, for the first time, we have an L-band SAR, which actually allows penetration down to a few meters. And in the infrared spectroscopy area, where even though there was signature of absorption features, the gray area was actually not part of a spectral coverage in the early mission. And without the gray area, the full absorption feature is not very well captured. And so with Chandrayaan-2, we have a spectrometer that completely covers the spectrum all the way up to 5 microns, which in turn will give us much more convincing evidence of the presence of water and its quantification. And the last one, at the lower right-hand side, is a mass spectrometer. Though we had seen evidence of water vapor from this mass spectrometer, there was always a concern with mass spectrometers of have you completely outgassed when you're actually on the surface of the moon. And so this time, with an orbiter mission, where the spectrometer stays on for long periods of time, we hope to be able to at least put some very useful, if not detection, at least important limits that will tell us about the water cycle in some sense on the surface of the moon. So these were the 3 broad areas: water on moon, global mapping, and localized in situ studies. And as you have heard, the localized in situ studies we could not accomplish. Our landing mission didn't work out very well, and so that is left for a later phase in our overall lunar program. Just a few quick pictures of the satellite. And this was our presumed landing site. We didn't make it. Hopefully we will have better success next time. And I'll just close with a few results from Chandrayaan-2, which are just early phase results. I mean, we have a camera on board, which is a terrain mapping camera, which has actually takes pictures from 3 separate angles, which allows us to create digital elevation models, which are again very important when you're looking at exploratory programs on the moon. This is from a faraway location at almost 4,000 kilometers before it entered the 100-kilometer orbit. But the top 3 images show the 3 views from the 3 cameras, which is then synthesized into a digital elevation model and do an orthographic image. And here is a zoom of that little box that actually shows interesting surface features, which are all very important for the future programs that we're now discussing here. Just another picture from the same camera. But what's interesting is this camera by a high-resolution visual camera, which has roughly 30 centimeter resolution. And what you see there are really interesting features at very small scales. And if you look at it carefully, you will actually see shadows from each of these little boulders and rocks arising from the fact that the sun is at a very shallow inclination at at these locations, giving rise to very good images that we hope, given the longer orbital phase of this, we hope this high resolution camera can actually provide a much broader coverage
of the moon, in particular specific areas that may be of some interest to other partners around the world. I think there's yet another image from the same OHRC camera, which we hope would be a very valuable and important resource for the global lunar exploration community to do planning and activities in future. The spectrometer that I mentioned is operating. It's what you see here at the top is the, sorry, can't go back on this. Yeah, you can see various kinds of spectral features. We still haven't gone through the process of modeling. One of the key elements of this, as you know, when you look at, since water is such an important compound on moon, I think it's very important to establish the presence of water in very strong terms. And so a key concern that is always comes from infrared spectroscopy is that how will you actually contribute, or how will you take into account the thermal component that is also there from the moon. And so the extended spectroscopy of this instrument actually allows us to quantify it much better. We haven't yet done the work in terms of the inversion process, but we believe it can be done. And this is an area where there could be global cooperation in terms of how best to really take this data and massage it in a manner that will be very useful to a lot of people. As per our data policy, within a year's time, this data becomes public, and we will certainly be inviting collaboration with the partners around the world. The lunar surface also throws out volatiles like argon-40, and the mass spectrometer, 100 kilometers, is actually a very good sensor for this. This is where I'm hoping we will even see some indications of water vapor. And this is actually what you now see is a plot that shows as a function of time the argon-40, which comes from potassium-40 decay. And what you're seeing is just before dusk, the argon-40 count drops. And as the sun warms up the surface, it rises consistent with what has been seen in the past. So we hope we will be able to contribute significantly to the exospheric components, which is also important. And the deeper question of what is the connection between exospheric measurements and surface properties is something we really like to explore. Now, here is a visual image taken from the LRO map of 3 craters. I've put in red circles the features. The rightmost circle, as you see, is not very clearly visible. But if you look at the same image in our synthetic aperture radar from L band, what you see is the third crater edges are much more clearly visible. And this is coming because of the fact that radar also shows roughness. But it also tells us something about the fact that if we really want to understand water, we better learn to handle roughness as well. And that's where a dual frequency SAR, with this capability, we believe would actually tell us much more, in a much more convincing manner, the presence and distribution of subsurface water, both at the both poles. Again, a very important component for MVA and future lunar programs. We've also, as I mentioned earlier, we have an X-ray spectrometer that is his primary objective is to look at surface composition. As I said, there is a constant concern about how we do mineralogy in terms of composition of surface and how we complement that with X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, which is very commonly done in our ground-based laboratories. So we have an X-ray spectrometer, which is an extension of the ESA experiment done, but with much larger area. Right now, the sun is and this spectrometer waits for the sun to actually explode in the sense of a solar flare, whose X-ray radiation is then used to really create X-ray fluorescence. The sun is not very active, but what we see is, as we go around the moon, every month for about 6 days, the Earth's geotail sweeps the moon, and in a sense sweeps Chandrayaan-2 as well. And what we see is on the plot below is a function of time, is an indication of the charged particle environment in the geotail. And this is very, very important. And yesterday we were looking at some data that suggested this is varying at very, very high rates. Maybe at the level of minutes, you're seeing changes that are significantly large. We need to, of course, quantify and model these things. We have some colleagues working on that issue. But I think it's, again, a very useful data set. And, of course, this is also seen by the Artemis mission that is also around the NASA mission that's around in the 2 orbits around Moon. And we've compared it. We see consistencies and differences. And as usual, the differences are even more interesting than the consistencies because it allows you to do something more. And that is coming from multi-point measurements of the charged particle environment around the moon. So what drives it? What's the solar activity that actually makes this environment so different? and how it is relevant when there is human presence on the moon are critical issues that we hope we will be able to contribute to. As we look beyond this current mission, as was already emphasized by our colleagues from JAXA, that this is a joint mission that we're now discussing with JAXA to really go to the South Pole. Clearly, water is again an important issue, and this time, however, to really do something deeper. So the collaboration involves a mission that is nearly 6 months long, and using a lander that ISRO provides, but with JAXA providing the launch and the rover. So we are right now in we completed a pre-phase A study, and we're right now in the phase A study, which we hope by March of next year, we're hoping to actually have this completed. And the focus of this mission largely was looking at surface water and including subsurface with a ground penetrating radar and some of the composition analysis. A new area that ISRO is getting into is in terms of looking at how to sample and handle surface samples, because there is a drill on the JAXA rover, and we are now continuing our discussions on how best to jointly make use of these samples to do the best science we can get out of the stuff. So in closing, let me just remind ourselves about 400 years ago, John Wilkins, which was very soon after Galileo had a chance to look at the moon, had suggested that moon must be a great place, and he proposed that it would be a place where human beings could in principle be there. He written 2 books, and subsequent to that, in the last many hundreds of years after that, we had people in France who actually mastered ballooning, and a small ruler in Tipu, in Mysore, in India, Tipu Sultan had made these crude rockets, which was used against the British at some level, and then Colonel William Congreve actually translated this into rockets of military. And then you have this proposal for space exploration as rockets, solid rockets, liquid rocket from Goddard. Space exploration begins in the 50s, and if you just look at the number of missions that were there for the moon, and you can see this initial massive spike. I mean, such a massive spike, it's hard to believe why we are not able to do it today. But we have a view that suggests that this is going to be a curve that's going to rapidly take off, especially in the context of private industries and private players, and looking at moon and Mars in a light that's different from just pure science. And we believe this is an area that will establish human presence. These missions are going to be complex. They're not going to be cheap, and hence they'll have to be collaborative. And in that context, what ISRO looks forward to is my last slide was very important. Is to really look at it went by quickly. But we intend to play a very responsible role in this collective, what we believe is a collective way to get back to the moon. And though initially with our small steps, but we believe the time is right, and it's an absolute honor to be here to talk to you all about our little program. And I'm sure ISRO will look forward to working with MBA on looking at the global interest in using moon as something that's beyond just science. Thank you very much.
So we come next to a very exciting first for the Moon Village Association, and that is the announcement and the award of the Moon Village Principals Mission Prizes, and for the 2019. To make the awards, please let me give the microphone back to the president of the Moon Village Association, Giuseppe Reibaldi.
So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this is the last time you're going to see me for this morning before the lunchtime. So just a few words before we go to the award ceremony. You want me to move? I would like you to be around in front. In the front. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. He's the chairman, so I'm doing what I'm told. I already explained to you today what we're trying to do. So we're trying to give you an award, which I hope is going to become the Oscar for the moon. Somebody has to start, so we felt that the MVA is a good organization to get started. I gave you the rationale to give the prize, so I don't think we should go back on it. So what I would like to do is simply to, first of all, try to get the first prize so that I can show you it's a prize which is equal for whoever is getting this prize. That's why I talk about kind of Oscar. It's been made by artists, in Cyprus. And of course, this is, shows a sign of basically an international and global cooperation. So I think just I want to show you, this is the first time that we show you this award. So you can see the award is made by Crystal, but I hope you can recognize the heart with the blue. And then you might see some light, which are the star. And then, of course, our main focus is the moon. So this is, each one will receive, of the organization, will receive a prize. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move on the podium. Can I move with this one? Rather than going to fall down. Okay. So therefore, I would like to start with the first to give the award. As I said before, the award is given with respect to the Moon Village principle. So each of these organizations is respecting and fulfilling the Moon Village principle. And what we are going to emphasize is the major, let's say, feature of those missions. So I would like to call Mr. McIntosh from NASA for recognizing. So for the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, because of the long-term reliability, is about 10 years mission and is working and is cooperating with all countries in the world to try to assist them with their own lunar mission. So I'd like to hand over this to you. Thank you so much. So I think we can you just put your, so that you can see. All right. So can you see that? Okay. So maybe you want to say a few words, please.
Sure. So I wasn't responsible for this mission. The MVA invited Dr. Jim Green to come receive this award. Unfortunately, Dr. Jim Green didn't make it. Dr. Jim Green is our current chief scientist at NASA. And during the LRO missions, he was the head of planetary science. Means he was responsible. It was his vision and his leadership that gave us this LRO. And I just want to say thank you for that. LRO has been an amazing mission. It's given us, its high-resolution camera has given us much information about mapping and also resources and also radiation environments on the lunar surface. And so there's an old saying in Star Trek that go where no man has gone before. Does everybody know that? Well, in the space community, we don't do that. We try to get to a destination as many times as possible and learn as much as we can about that before we go and send humans there. Because as I said earlier, we have to keep astronauts like Koichi safe. Koichi, I want to make sure that you're always safe, okay? And so we want to make sure that astronauts are safe, and so we go with robotic missions as many times as possible. And LRO has been a great example of a mission that's been very successful and given us a lot of information about the lunar surface in preparation for future human missions to the lunar surface. So thank you to MVA for this award, and Dr. Green says thank you as well. Thank you very much.
So I think we're going to keep it on the stage because we're going to have, of course, all together. So the next award is being given to the Chinese National Space Agency for the mission Chang'e 4. Again, the same motivation, fulfillment of the Moon Village principle, but in particular for the high technology level demonstrated by the mission, the Chinese National Space Agency, for the outstanding achievement, which for the first time has landed a probe on the other side of the moon. Please, Professor Yu, please join me. And so I would like to hand it over this to you. So with the shake of the hand. So thank you for that. Just, okay, thank you. So you want to say a few words, please?
非常感谢月球层协会给我们颁发这个一个大奖。
It's been a privilege to receive this award, and thank you so much, especially for the MBA Association. Thank you, and thank you everyone who is here today.
我们后面要发射嫦娥5号、嫦娥6号、嫦娥7号或嫦娥8号，欢迎大家多参与我们的工程，我们广泛开展国际合作。
We warmly welcome the international cooperation for the future lunar missions, and we like to make more friends. Thank you.
我们希望以后能够在海南文昌发射场见到大家。我也是13年来第一次到日本第二次到日本，谢谢大家。
We like to welcome you to visit Hainan, the launch site for the Chang'e 5, which is scheduled for next year. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please stay on the stage. Yeah, please stay on the stage because we are the final and the third and last, let's say, organization. So we like to recognize Indian Space Research Organization for the Chandrayaan-2. Chandrayaan-2 has been a special mission. It has achieved basically all the objectives. They have been in line with the Moon Village principle. In particular, they have done an outstanding job in the outreach. I think we need to be clear, all those missions are national missions, but we do need to make sure that the world get excited and share what is in it. And that's, by the way, one of the goals of the Moon Village Association. So I like the representative from Minister, Dr. Srimark, to be here and accept the prize from us. So thank you so much for... Okay, a few words from you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. ISRO thanks Moon Village Association for this very important recognition. A few words, I mean, when India started its space program way back at a time when India was just after independence and there were a number of problems in the country, questions are often asked, why are we getting into this rather expensive proposition? This was set up by our Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, our father of our Indian space program. In the last many decades, after we have managed to achieve self-reliance at some level in terms of resource management and communication requirements of the space, we have now moved into the larger exploration phase of it. And that's how we got into the Chandrayaan 1 and 2 and so on. And we continue to hope to be able to play many more roles in the global community. Just to highlight a couple of things that we now initiated now is a program called Unnati, which is actually a program that trains scientists and engineers from other countries who do not have a full-fledged space program right now in the design development of nanosatellites. We also have 2 opportunities announced whose deadline is end of the month, global opportunities for utilizing the sounding rocket platform as well as the last stage of our PSLV rocket, which actually can be in orbit for 6 more months, as platforms to pursue trial technologies, or sometimes even doing good science. In this larger vision of the Moon Village to really bring a global community together, I think it's very important to really look at the community that is still not necessarily endowed with all the resources that exist today. And I believe these platforms will actually allow a bigger set of people to come to it. And so we hope that's a meaningful contribution, and our best wishes to the Moon Village Association, its objectives, and we hope to be a partner in this program very soon.
Okay, so thank you. Now, if you can come close to me, I think we will have a group each, and I'd like to invite, of course, Sensei-san, so to be here as a part of the local organizing committee. So I think we can all fit in one picture. Can we? All right. Okay, so I think we managed to get enough picture. I think this is an historic moment. I'd like to thank all of you to be here. It's the first time that we do that. We are going to do this every year, and we really hope that out of this prize we will be able to get more cooperation going, more dialogue in the spirit of the cooperation with the Moon Village and the Moon Village Association is trying to perform. And of course, thank you again to our local organizing committee. But you can see just from the distribution, we have Europe, you have United States, China, India, and Japan. I think we are really a global organization. Thank you, and I wish the end of this session. Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you so much.
Before we end, so just a couple of logistics announcements. Firstly, because this is, as it's turned out, it's an extremely large group in a small room. But we have a tradition at the MVA Moon Village workshops and symposia to take a group photo. So if we could have the photographer come to the front. Who is the photographer? Inatani sensei? So, Asoka desu? Okay. Okay, so please. So we are going to take a group photo with everyone seated now. So please stay in your seat. So,
we'll be here.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Maybe here.
Giuseppe here?
Yeah, he's there.
You're here, okay. We're here.
Okay.
We are all here.
Okay.
I have no solution.
No, just here. Okay.
Okay.
So please try to see the camera. If you cannot see the camera cannot see you. So, okay, ready. Ichi, ni. Ichi, ni, san.
Lift off. Lift off. ここは映ってます？映ない。なんか振ってつなぐとか考えて。
I think he's not going to be able to take pictures.
Okay. いいですよ. Okay, so next, please, if you have not yet signed up for a breakout session, so the sign-up sheet for the breakout session is outside with your lunchbox. So we have a nice lunchbox. Everyone is asked to go out when we break and get your lunchbox, and we are planning that you will come back in here and eat it very carefully because there's not a lot of room. But so this is the plan, and please, on your lunchbox there is a form. If you have not yet signed up for one of the breakout sessions, please sign up for the breakout session and give your form to the registration desk. We will be doing an analysis and providing feedback on the breakout sessions that each person will be going to. Again, it's a very big meeting, and so you may not get your first choice. We apologize if we need to put you someplace that is not your first choice. Lastly, for the next keynote lectures after the lunch break, which will be at 1 o'clock, so we will have a very short time for lunch. I apologize, but then after lunch we will be back on schedule, and we would like to ask all of the speakers, namely Lambore-san, Sherwood-san, Degirov, I apologize, from Yushinoi, and Yamasaki-san to please come and to sit in the front row along with Ventovsky, who will be the chair of the next session. So please, if you are one of the speakers at the next session, you will come and sit, there's the chairman, you will come and sit here in the front. And please do come, if you are a speaker in the next session, do come and make sure during the lunch break that your presentation is loaded on the computer, or have your own computer ready if you are going to use your own computer. Anything else?
Just the afternoon session starts at 1 p.m.
Yes, just a reminder, it starts at 1 o'clock, 1300.
As planned.
As planned. Yeah. So, okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. We're looking forward to an exciting afternoon.